Chapter 1502. Yao Lily. She's going to look for that damned Yao Lily. Yun Jian's words shocked everyone present. You know superstar Yao Lily? The guy who called Yun Jian Little Beauty looked at Yun Jian in shock. Yao Lily was an international superstar, and this was the first time Yao Lily came to Country Z for a concert. Therefore, the scene was quite sensational. Some fans even came all the way from provinces to Min City just to catch a glimpse of Yao Lily. As soon as the guy spoke, everyone turned their attention to Yun Jian. After all, to everyone, it was an honor to be able to catch a glimpse of an international superstar like Yao Lily at a concert. As for Yun Jian, she actually said that she was going to look for that damned Yao Lily. Did she know Yao Lily? You were lucky to be able to sneak in without a ticket at the entrance. Now you're taking advantage of her. Superstar Yao Lily is a foreigner, and this is her first time in Country Z. She's even holding such a large-scale concert. How could she possibly know a country bumpkin like you? If Yao Lily knows you, then I can even say that she's my relative. Ha, she really thinks she's human. Peng Kai-hui was the kind of woman who was very jealous. As long as she targeted someone, she would do her best to target them. No matter what that person did, whether it was good or bad, she hated them. When that damned woman came to Country Z for the first time, you were still in your mother's womb. Yun Jian ignored Peng Kai-hui's words. She glanced at Peng Kai-hui from the corner of her eye and walked towards the backstage after saying that. Yun Jian, can we really go backstage? Lin Wan asked expectantly and cautiously. Usually, there would be staff guarding the backstage. Those who weren't staff wouldn't be allowed to enter. Of course, not, Yun Jian smiled slightly. Just when Lin Wan thought that she would definitely be able to enter, she suddenly said. As expected, the backstage of the concert was strictly guarded, so Yun Jian and Lin Wan couldn't get in. Of course, Yun Jian did not force her to go backstage. If Yun Jian insisted on going backstage, she would probably rush in even if the sky fell. They did not enter the backstage because Yao Lily was not there yet. Yun Jian was not stupid. She naturally knew that celebrities were usually the last to appear. It wouldn't be too late to sneak backstage to look for him after Yao Lily finished his concert. At this moment, Yun Jian and Lin Wan casually found a bench and sat down. It was true that tickets were required to enter the stadium, but once you entered the stadium, you could sit anywhere you wanted. Those who came late could only stand. In other words, it was on a first-come first-served basis. Yun Jian and Lin Wan casually found a seat and sat down. Peng Kai-hui also ran over with a group of people. Then, Peng Kai-hui and the others sat next to Yun Jian. The reason why Peng Kai-hui sat next to Yun Jian was to mock Yun Jian. She was really angry about what happened just now, so she chased after Yun Jian and wanted to mock her. Seeing that Yun Jian was sitting there and there was no one around, Peng Kai-hui sat in the row in front of Yun Jian's seat. She turned to look at Yun Jian and said to Yun Jian in front of the surrounding people, I told you, you can't enter the backstage of the concert at all. Also, you said that you know Yao Lily. If you know Yao Lily, you won't be able to enter the backstage of the concert at all. Peng Kai-hui chased after Yun Jian because she wanted to make her admit that she didn't know Yao Lily or admit defeat to her. After all, in front of so many classmates, especially when there were male classmates around, if Yun Jian admitted defeat to her, it would make Peng Kai-hui feel that she was more powerful and full of self-esteem. She would even be able to hold her head high in front of the boys. Peng Kai-hui felt that Yun Jian should have admitted her mistake by now. But what she didn't expect was that Yun Jian only left her with one sentence, leave my sight, and you can live to 100 years old. What if she didn't? Hearing Yun Jian's words, the surrounding boys and girls were all stunned. Chapter 1503. Especially those young boys and girls who had never heard Yunjian say such harsh words. Now that they heard Yunjian say something like that, they were all dumbfounded. Although they were all military school students, Peng Kaihui, Yi Qiao, and Peng Caihui's group did not know that Yunjian was the famous killing god of Team Monarch, the terrifying female student who won first place during the military training period. If they knew, their attitude would definitely change. Similarly, after hearing Yunjian's words, Peng Kaihui was also stunned. When she came to her senses, Peng Kaihui stared at Yunjian with a hateful gaze. "You mean to say that you're cursing me? You?" Peng Kaihui pointed at Yunjian in disbelief. She looked at Yunjian with extreme disgust and said fiercely. However, before she could finish her sentence, Lin Wan interrupted her. "She told you not to hang around in front of us. You didn't give us the tickets to enter here, so please move to the side. There are many seats there, you can all sit there, but please stay away from us." At this moment, Lin Wan was also filled with disgust towards Peng Kaihui and her group. However, just as Lin Wan finished her sentence, Yi Qiao stood up again and said to Lin Wan in an extremely righteous tone, "Lin Wan, don't be like this. We're all classmates, Before Yi Qiao could finish, Lin Wan interrupted her, "Sorry, I don't have such a classmate." Yi Qiao was the kind of person who would change sides and waver. However, Lin Wan was different. Lin Wan was the kind of person who would only help her friends. Just like earlier, even if they could not enter the stadium to watch the concert, once Yunjian left, Lin Wan also returned the tickets in her hand to Peng Kaihui and followed Yunjian. Lin Wan originally thought that she wouldn't be able to see the concert today, but she didn't expect that Yunjian could fool the guard and let them both in. Lin Wan and Yi Qiao knew each other first. Lin Wan asked Yunjian to come here today purely because of Yi Qiao. Yi Qiao and Peng Kaihui knew each other, so Peng Kaihui gave Yi Qiao a few tickets. Then Yi Qiao gave 2 tickets to Lin Wan. Originally, Lin Wan was quite considerate of Lin Wan. However, no one stood up for Peng Kaihui when Peng Kaihui was so mean to Yunjian, so Lin Wan completely ignored it. Lin Wan was the kind of person who would risk her life for her friends. Lin Wan's words completely broke up with Yi Qiao because of Yunjian. In fact, this matter was Peng Caihui's fault. However, Yi Qiao was afraid that she couldn't enter the stadium, so she just watched Yunjian and Lin Wan walk over. Lin Wan and Yi Qiao didn't get too close to each other. Since we're not welcome, then let's go. Peng Kaihui couldn't stand it. She slapped the stool and immediately stood up and walked to the other side. A few other people who wanted to be on good terms with Peng Kaihui also followed. Yi Qiao looked at Lin Wan and Yunjian a few times and finally followed. Lin Wan opened her mouth, but nothing came out in the end. More and more people came to the stadium, and in the end, it became a sea of people. There was no place to sit, and in the end, there wasn't even a place to stand. Finally, after the main lights of the stadium went off, the fluorescent light on the big stage lit up. Under the host's guidance, the international superstar Yao Lily appeared on the stage. On the big stage, Yao Lily's body was enchanting. She was wearing a miniskirt, revealing a pair of long legs that could make men have nosebleeds just by looking at them. The atmosphere of the stadium instantly reached the climax. Seeing Yao Lily on the big stage, Yunjian narrowed her eyes and smiled slightly. As expected, she was still as good at seducing people as before. Yunjian didn't pay attention to Yao Lily's dance and song. As soon as the 2-hour concert ended, the crowd began to walk out of the stadium. Yunjian took advantage of the chaos to sneak into the backstage of the concert with Lin Wan. Just as Yunjian took Lin Wan to the backstage of the concert, Peng Kaihui and the others also unconsciously walked through the same tunnel that led to the backstage of the concert with Yunjian. "Yunjian, where are we going?" Lin Wan asked. We're going to find her. Yun Jian didn't say much. She led the way and walked all the way backstage of the concert. Halfway through, they bumped into Peng Kai-hui and the others who were walking towards them. What are you two doing here? Peng Kai-hui screamed. Yun Jian ignored Peng Kai-hui and walked towards Yao Lily's lounge with Lin Wan. In front of Yao Lily's lounge backstage, more than a dozen burly bodyguards were standing guard. There were already a lot of fans who fought their way out of the crowd standing at the entrance of the lounge. Because of the dozen burly bodyguards, the fans couldn't enter the lounge. Ah! If I can see Yao Lily up close when she comes out later, I'll have no regrets in my life. Me too. I'm so excited. I wonder if I can see her later. If I can shake hands with her, I don't want to wash my hands this year. A few fans were standing at the entrance and waiting exaggeratedly. Just as they said this, a figure suddenly flashed in front of them. Peng Kai-hui and the others had just arrived when they saw the dozen or so bodyguards. They were disappointed. Just as they thought of this, Yun Jian didn't say anything. She walked up to the dozen or so bodyguards in front of everyone and knocked them to the ground. Then, she walked to Yao Lily's lounge and kicked the door open. Yun Jian. She's so fierce. How could this little girl be so fierce? She actually managed to take down more than a dozen strong bodyguards in one go. Everyone present was dumbfounded. Chapter 1504. By then, Yun Jian had already kicked open the door to the lounge and barged in. The few people standing a distance away were already pale with fright. Putting aside Yun Jian's act of barging in, just look at the dozen bodyguards she had taken down. They were bodyguards. Bodyguards protecting celebrities. These two bodyguards must have been trained in martial arts. Especially bodyguards protecting celebrities, they must be the best bodyguards sent by a bodyguard company. But what about Yun Jian? She actually single-handedly took down more than a dozen bodyguards on the ground. Could she be the famous slashing god from Team Monarch in our school? One of the boys suddenly saw Yun Jian taking down a dozen bodyguards and recalled a certain legendary figure in their school that had gone viral. His eyes widened as he asked in bewilderment. Yun Jian had already walked into the lounge and there were more than a dozen bodyguards lying in front of the lounge. Lin Wan was also standing with Peng Kai-hui and the rest who were still in shock. The boy exclaimed in horror, attracting the attention of Peng Kai-hui, Yi Qiao, and the rest of the boys and girls. What? You said she's that person from Team Monarch. Team Monarch slashing god. You mean, the killing god who won first place in the wilderness survival activity during our first year of high school? As soon as the boy spoke, another boy immediately chimed in. His tone was filled with shock and fear, as if he had heard something terrible. Among the freshmen, Team Monarch's slashing god was especially famous. Perhaps not many people would recognize the name Yun Jian, but when it came to slashing god, there were not many in Min City Military School who did not recognize her. Especially the boys from Min City Military School. After hearing about Team Monarch's slashing god battle record, they instantly became her admirers. Previously, they only heard Lin Wan calling Yun Jian by her real name, but no one knew that Yun Jian was slashing god. Peng Kai-hui, Yi Qiao, and the others were stunned. Then, they turned to look at Lin Wan. Yi Qiao said, Lin Wan, your friend, could he really be the killing god? Team Monarch's Grim Reaper. She is. Shouldn't you all know that? Lin Wan replied in confusion as soon as Yi Qiao's question was heard. This echo frightened Yi Qiao, Peng Kai-hui, and the others to the point that their expressions changed slightly. Yun Jian was Team Monarch's slashing god. If she had known this from the beginning, Peng Kai-hui would not have spoken to Yun Jian in that tone. But now, Even if she knew that Yun Jian was the killing god, the hatred had already been formed. Ping Kai Hui would definitely not lower her head because of this. Ayaya! Just then, Yao Lily's shriek came from the lounge. The group of bodyguards rushed into the lounge. Seeing this, Ping Kai Hui and the others rushed in as well. The fans who weren't stopped by the bodyguards also followed in. Before running into the lounge, Ping Kai Hui complained. I knew she wouldn't know Yao Lily. He's a superstar. Does she think that just because she's Team Monarch / God, she's on the same level as the superstar Yao Lily? Pfft. Just her. Ping Kai Hui wanted to say something, but the group had already entered the lounge. Her words came to an abrupt halt when she saw the next scene. In the lounge, Yao Lily wanted to give Yun Jian a big hug but was stopped by Yun Jian's hand. SS, why are you here? I didn't expect you to come to this godforsaken place. Yao Lily was stopped by Yun Jian and could not get close to Yun Jian, but she was not angry. Looking at the situation, Yao Lily was probably trying to get close to Yun Jian and curry favor with Yun Jian. Yao Lily knew Yun Jian. Everyone who walked in from the lounge was dumbfounded. Whether it was the bodyguards or the fans, especially Ping Kai Hui and the others, their eyes were wide open as if they had seen a ghost. The international superstar Yao Lily knew Yun Jian. Moreover, it seemed like Yao Lily wanted to get close to Yun Jian and Yun Jian was the one who rejected him. Chapter 1505. Everyone present could understand Yi Qiao's shock. Compared to Yi Qiao, Ping Kai Hui was so scared that her face turned pale and she couldn't even utter a word. The international superstar Yao Lily actually knew Yun Jian. Those who knew had the same reaction as Ping Kai Hui, Yao Lily, and the others. Those who didn't know had the same reaction as the bodyguards and the fans. They were all in a state of shock and confusion. The international superstar Yao Lily was sexy and cold in front of others. Why did he look like he was about to pounce on Yun Jian when he was in front of Yun Jian? Ping Kai Hui, Yi Qiao, and the others had the same reaction as everyone present. Yun Jian didn't look at the reactions of the people around her, nor did she have the intention to pay attention to them. She glanced at Yao Lily and then withdrew her hand. She walked lazily to the seat in front of Yao Lily's dressing table and sat down on the bench. She immediately crossed her legs and looked up at Yao Lily with narrowed eyes. Your seat is pretty cool. Are you in this line of work now? Yun Jian raised her hand and fiddled with the makeup on Yao Lily's dressing table as she said with a smile. This line of work was naturally referring to being a singer or an actress. Yao Lily smiled. He and Yun Jian didn't avoid the topic in front of everyone. Instead, they continued to talk about things that the people present couldn't understand. Isn't that so? I don't have your ability to survive in that kind of place where people are eaten alive without spitting out their bones. If it wasn't for you back then, I reckon that I would have entered your line of work. Now, I'm afraid that not even a pile of bones is left. Yao Lily showed a scornful smile as he spoke. Yao Lily and Yun Jian's every word and action made the people present puzzled. An international superstar was actually talking to Yun Jian. What's more, they were talking about things that no one could understand. The people around them were completely stunned. Even the fans who saw their idol Yao Lily froze in confusion. For a moment, no one thought of rushing to Yao Lily to ask for an autograph and a handshake. Everyone was stunned by the conversation between Yun Jian and Yao Lily. Yao Lily turned around and looked at Yun Jian. She asked the question that had been bothering her for many years. Oh right, SS, why did you save me in the first place? SS. Why did Yao Lily call Yun Jian SS? Ping Kai Hui and the others were confused. But then they suddenly recalled, wasn't Yun Jian the killing god? Why did Lily know about SS? Why did she say that Yun saved her? Did Yun Jian save the superstar Yao Lily? Everyone present was dying to know the reason. Thus, they all stared at Yun Jian and Yao Lily without saying a word. Yun Jian's smile became even more obvious after hearing Yao Lily's words. She pursed her lips and smiled faintly. Then, she said, because you're not suitable to live in that kind of place. That was the only explanation. She had once saved Yao Lily's life because of this reason. An Han organization would recruit a new batch of children every year and let them fight. After a few years, the weak would be eliminated and the strong would remain. At that time, Yun Jian was already an internationally famous agent, Wang Shaoxing. When Yao Lily was abducted into an Han organization, she was already very old. She was about 18 or 19 years old. At that time, Yao Lily had been in an Han organization for about 2 to 3 months. When Yun Jian saw Yao Lily, she felt as if she had found Muing. Yun Jian's intuition told her that Yao Lily was not suitable to live in such a place. Because of this reason, Yun Jian directly sent Yao Lily away. Therefore, Yao Lily only stayed in an assassin organization for 2 to 3 months. Although it was only 2 to 3 months, staying in an Han organization for 2 to 3 months was enough to change a person. Yao Lily still remembered that before Yun Jian sent her home, she said the same thing. Yun Jian said, "Go home. You're not suitable to live in such a place." Yun Jian was clearly younger than her, but she said such profound words. Yao Lily's feelings were extremely complicated at that time. You're still the same as before. Mysterious, strong, and dazzling. You're someone I can never reach. I will never know your background. I only know that you're SS, the legend. Yao Lily commented on Yun Jian in front of everyone. The superstar Yao Lily was usually very sharp-tongued. This was the first time she had commented on someone in such a way in public. Chapter 1506. Yao Lily was startled when Yun Jian walked into the lounge. After all, she was a superstar now. Where were the bodyguards outside when someone suddenly barged into the lounge? Where were the bodyguards? However, Yao Lily did not expect that Yun Jian would reveal her identity to Peng Kaihui and the bodyguards outside the lounge before they could react. That was why the bodyguards, Peng Kaihui, Yi Qiao, and the others who were standing outside the lounge heard Yao Lily scream. In fact, Yao Lily screamed because she saw Yun Jian again. Yao Lily knew that someone like Yun Jian could change her face at any time. In other words, Yun Jian was the kind of person who would change her face every time she appeared on stage. Yun Jian only raised her eyebrows slightly when she heard Yao Lily's evaluation of her. Peng Kaihui, Yi Qiao, and the others around her could no longer describe their feelings with the word shock. "SS, do you want to have supper with me tonight?" Yao Lily looked at Yun Jian and invited her while everyone was still in shock. A superstar invited her for supper. The people around her almost died of envy. Sure. Yun Jian sat in front of the dressing table and nodded slightly. Let's go. I'm just about to remove my makeup and have supper with my colleagues. Bring your friends along and let's go together. Yao Lily waved at Lin Wan, Peng Kaihui, and the others. She thought that Peng Kaihui and the others were also Yun Jian's friends, so she smiled at them. Lin Wan, let's go. However, Yun Jian only invited Lin Wan. Hey! We also came here together. Lin Wan, Yun Jian. Peng Kaihui rolled her eyes. How could she let go of such a good opportunity to dine with a superstar? Therefore, when Peng Kaihui saw that Yun Jian and Lin Wan were about to leave, she wanted to curry favor with Yun Jian, hoping that Yun Jian would let bygones be bygones and bring her along. I came with my friends. The two of us. Yun Jian's voice interrupted Peng Kaihui's words. Peng Caihui's face instantly darkened to the extreme. However, Yun Jian knew the superstar. Even if Peng Caihui had lost her mind, she would never choose to argue with Yun Jian at this moment. Therefore, Peng Caihui watched as Yao Lily removed her makeup and left with Yun Jian and Lin Wan under the protection of a dozen bodyguards. After Yun Jian and Lin Wan left with Yao Lily, Peng Caihui stood there with a sullen face. How could she do that? We're all classmates. Yi Qiao spoke up in a righteous tone. However, Yi Qiao said that because she really wanted to go with them. Humph. Does she think that she knows a superstar? Peng Caihui stood there sullenly and shouted angrily. Yun Jian and Lin Wan followed Yao Lily and got into a super luxurious car after breaking through the crowd of fans. The moment they got into the luxurious car, even Yao Lily let out a long sigh of relief. Then, Yao Lily turned to look at Yun Jian and said, "Phew, I didn't scare you guys, did I? Actually, their fans are quite protective of me. However, this lineup can always scare me. Every time I come out, they will surround me as if they don't care about their lives. Oh right, the two of you should follow me closely later. Tonight is our company's party and there will be other superstars. If they say anything bad to you guys, just ignore them." Yao Lily's words made Lin Wan extremely excited. It was already surprising enough to be able to see the superstar Yao Lily at such a close distance. Could they even see other superstars now? And this was all thanks to Yun Jian knowing Yao Lily. Really? Can we really see other superstars later? Lin Wan made an expectant gesture and looked at Yao Lily expectantly. Chapter 1507. It's true, but don't get your hopes up too high. Maybe they'll be different from the celebrities in your impression. Yao Lily flashed her pearly white front teeth at Lin Wan with a smile. This smile made Lin Wan's excited face moisten. Not only was the superstar Yao Lily sitting in front of her, she was even talking to her. She had seen her. She had spoken. Lin Wan was the kind of person who chased after celebrities crazily. Although she did not like Yao Lily the most among the celebrities, Lin Wan was still in disbelief when she spoke to Yao Lily. "Aren't you afraid that I'll offend everyone in your company if I attend your company's gathering with you?" Yun Jian asked as she sat lazily in the luxurious sedan seat, tilting her head slightly to look at Yao Lily. Yun Jian was the kind of person who would seek revenge and repay kindness. She would return double the favor to those who treated her well, but she would turn on those who treated her badly without regard for anyone's feelings. Yao Lily was well aware of this. After listening to Yun Jian, Yao Lily grinned and said, "I'm not afraid." Yun Jian exchanged a smile with Yao Lily. At the entrance of Chao Tian Hotel. A luxurious sedan parked in front of Chao Tian Hotel's main entrance. Chao Tian Hotel was a newly opened 5-star global hotel chain in Longmen City. It was opened recently. As Chao Tian Hotel was a global chain, a world-renowned 5-star hotel, its interior was lavishly decorated and its location was the most luxurious city center in the city. The cheapest meal in Chao Tian Hotel would cost up to 1,000 yuan while the most expensive meal would cost up to 10,000 yuan. This standard of consumption was very expensive in the eyes of ordinary people in country Z in 1999. In other words, those who could dine or stay in Chao Tian Hotel were either leaders, tycoons, or famous people from all over the country. The opening of Chao Tian Hotel was purely to serve the important people. "It's here. We can get off now." Yao Lily got out of the car first. Then, she held the door for Yun Jian and helped Yun Jian out of the car. When the driver saw this, his eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Who was Yao Lily? She was an international superstar. In the past, Yao Lily was extremely arrogant. He had to be supported when he got out of the car, waited on when he entered the hotel, and rinsed his mouth when he ate. Many people even accused her of putting on airs. But what did he see today? The international superstar Yao Lily opened the door for a 16-year-old girl. Was this a joke? Is this true? Lin Wan got out of the car with Yun Jian. Just as the three of them got out of the car and made their way to Chao Tian Hotel's luxurious entrance, they had only taken 2 steps when a woman in her 20s came over with a guffaw. The woman was dressed in bright red. She had a great figure and was quite good-looking. The woman had seen how Yao Lily opened the door for Yun Jian just now. Once she came over, she sized Yao Lily up in front of everyone and sneered, "You're so arrogant." "Pfft, Yao Lily, what's wrong with you today? Why did you open the door for a girl dressed like a country bumpkin? Did your head get caught in the door? Have you become a little indecent?" As soon as the woman sneered, Lin Wan turned her head and saw the woman's face clearly. The moment she saw the woman's face, Lin Wan almost screamed. Lu Yan. It was Lu Yan. Lu Yan was a superstar in Z country. She had just won an international award for Best Actress and was very popular now. Basically, everyone in the entertainment industry knew her. Hearing that she was a country bumpkin again, Yun Jian raised her eyebrows slightly. Chapter 1508. Lin Wan was excited when she saw Lu Yan. But when she recalled what Lu Yan said, Lin Wan was a little disappointed. Lin Wan was Lu Yan's fan, a die-hard fan. Lin Wan came from a good family. Her house could afford a color TV. When she saw Lu Yan in the movie, Lin Wan was attracted by Lu Yan's pure appearance. Later on, after Lu Yan became popular, she changed her innocent appearance. Later on, when she appeared on TV, she would wear heavy makeup and sexy clothes just like now. In fact, Lin Wan didn't like Lu Yan's clothes, but Lin Wan still liked Lu Yan as usual. Just now, when Lu Yan appeared, Lin Wan was so excited that she almost screamed. But when she recalled what Lu Yan said, Lin Wan almost couldn't believe that the Lu Yan standing in front of her was the female star she had always liked. Yun Jian was dressed plainly today. But when she came to such an occasion like Chao Tian Hotel, she really looked ordinary. "Let's go. Ignore her." Yao Lily didn't plan to pay attention to Lu Yan at all. She waved to Yun Jian and Lin Wan, then turned and walked into Chao Tian Hotel. In the entertainment industry, celebrities used their most attractive side to expose to the audience, but in reality, no one could see their true side. The second floor of Chao Tian Hotel had been booked by Yao Lily's company. In addition to many big stars, screenwriters, directors and other big shots, there were also the company's executives, including some not-so-famous stars and staff members on the second floor. But most of the people who showed up were well-dressed. Yun Jian, who was only wearing casual clothes, could be recognized at a glance. In fact, the reason why Yao Lily's company called so many screenwriters, producers, investors and directors was that they wanted to choose good seedlings from the company to cultivate. Today's party was a party in a nice way, but in a bad way, it was a hongmen banquet. Female celebrities who wanted to be famous naturally had to pay a price in exchange for screen time and opportunities. Unspoken rules. This was something that anyone with a discerning eye would know. Of course, Yao Lily brought Yun Jian and Lin Wan here today with no intention of letting Yun Jian and Lin Wan step into the entertainment industry. At most, she wanted to use this opportunity to have a meal with Yun Jian. However, as soon as Yao Lily, Yun Jian, and Lin Wan sat down, a fat man with a beer belly sat at the same table as Yun Jian and the others. The beer-bellied man squinted his eyes at Yun Jian and said directly, "Don't worry. Little girl, you're quite pretty, aren't you? Why are you dressed like this?" I'm Jing Weiqing, the director of Duo G Company. Little girl, you're quite pretty. Are you interested in developing in the entertainment industry? As soon as the man who called himself Jing Weiqing finished speaking, a sharp female voice beside him interrupted, "Director Jing, this little girl's taste in clothes isn't very good. I'm afraid she won't be popular no matter what." With that said, Yun Jian saw a figure flash in front of her. In the next second, the sharp female voice, which was Lu Yan, who had just met at the entrance, sat down on Jing Weiqing's lap. She wrapped her arms around Director Zhang's chest and spoke seductively. This scene almost made Lin Wan vomit in disgust. She didn't expect the female celebrity she had always liked, Lu Yan, to have such a person behind her. "As long as you're pretty, I'll make you popular." Director Zhang naturally touched Lu Yan's butt. Then, he looked up at Yun Jian and spoke in a tone that he thought a little girl like Yun Jian would definitely yearn to become a celebrity. He said to Yun Jian, "How about it, little girl? As long as you give something up, there's a wide road waiting for you to walk on. The entertainment industry. This is something that many people can't even dream of." "Oh. The entertainment industry." Yun Jian nearly chuckled out loud, but she managed to keep a smirk on her face as she uttered the words with a smirk. "Yes," Director Zhang said as he pushed Lu Yan away. Then, he looked at Yun Jian as if a fish had taken the bait. "You want me to enter the entertainment industry? Aren't you afraid that I'll destroy your entertainment company?" Yun Jian's red lips curled. She tapped the table with her fingernails and spoke indifferently. "Pfft. You. Just you. You'll even destroy Director Zhang's entertainment company. Ha ha ha. Are you kidding? Director Zhang's entertainment company is famous in our country." Lu Yan laughed out loud on the spot. However, just as Lu Yan started laughing, a middle-aged man who was slightly thinner than Director Zhang ran over. He looked at Yun Jian with a fearful gaze and spoke to Director Zhang and Lu Yan. "You guys are crazy. How dare you provoke this little girl? Do you know about Baiguang Model Agency from a while ago? Baiguang Model Agency has closed down because they provoked this little girl. Baiguang's boss is still begging on the streets. How stupid are you to provoke her? You guys." Just as the middle-aged man spoke up to this point, Director Zhang and Lu Yan's smiles completely froze. "What? Baiguang Model Agency closed down because they provoked Yun Jian. They provoked this ordinary-looking girl." Chapter 1509. Lu Yan and Director Zhang's faces stiffened. In the beginning, Lu Yan and Director Zhang thought that Yun Jian was the kind of girl who came from the countryside and looked like a country bumpkin at first glance. Most of these girls came from poor families. Because they didn't have money, or because they wanted to live a richer life, in order to not be ridiculed in school, there were a lot of them who came out to sell themselves. Today, when Director Zhang saw Yun Jian, his eyes were wide open. When Lu Yan came over and plopped herself on Director Zhang's lap just now, the latter had been stroking her butt and thinking about how alluring she looked in her casual outfit. There was nothing to criticize about Yun Jian's looks. Her innocent face paled in comparison to Country Z's movie queen Lu Yan, who had just won an international award recently. With such looks, if she were to work in the entertainment industry, as long as she paid the price, she would definitely be popular. That was why Lu Yan mocked Yun Jian in every possible way. The reason was that she was afraid that Yun Jian would really enter the industry and agree to Director Zhang's request to compete with her for resources. Never in Director Zhang and Lu Yan's wildest dreams would they have imagined that Yun Jian was the one who had caused the famous entertainment agency, Baiguang Model Agency, to go bankrupt. Baiguang Model Agency was a big company that was famous all over the world. Back then, Baiguang Model Agency's prospects were very good. It had already entered the global rankings and was comparable to Yao Lily's entertainment company. However, such a big entertainment company closed down just like that. Director Zhang and Liu Yan couldn't believe it when they heard that Baiguang Model Agency had closed down. Later, they saw the boss of Baiguang Model Agency begging on the streets with their own eyes. Director Zhang and Liu Yan were shocked. At that time, they didn't think too much about it. They didn't even know the specific reason why Baiguang Model Agency closed down. They heard that Baiguang had offended someone, that was all. If it wasn't for the middle-aged man who came over midway, Director Zhang and Liu Yan wouldn't even know that Baiguang Model Agency was closed down because they had offended Yun Jian. She. Baiguang was closed down because they offended her. That's why Baiguang closed down now. The middle-aged man was an excellent lighting technician at the former Baiguang Model Agency, so his words were very credible. But even so, Director Zhang and Liu Yan were scared silly. How could this be? Yun Jian was dressed so plainly. How could she have the ability to destroy Baiguang Model Agency, which was as big as Yao Lily's company? Why not? I saw it with my own eyes when Baiguang went bankrupt. She. Her friend was caught and brought to Baiguang. In order to protect her innocence, she slit her wrist and committed suicide, so she chopped off a person's finger in front of everyone. She even ordered her subordinates to chop off everyone's manhood. That scene was really... I was standing outside at that time. I didn't dare to make a sound even when I heard it. I was almost scared to death. The middle-aged man, who used to be a lighting technician at Baiguang Model Agency, now working for Yao Lily's company, exclaimed in horror. As he spoke, he glanced sideways at Yun Jian, unable to hide the fear in his voice. Hearing that Yun Jian had the ability to chop off a person's finger in front of everyone, Liu Yan was so scared that her face turned pale. She was just a teenage girl. She actually dared to chop off a person's finger. Just as she was thinking about it, Yao Lily's words to Yun Jian were heard again. The meaning of his words made Liu Yan, Director Zhang, and the others go crazy again. Why are you so gentle now? I remember that in the past, just because a subordinate of a small organization said a few words to you, you directly let that small group bleed the mountains and rivers. Yao Lily's casual words sounded as if they had heard something horrifying in everyone's ears. Just because of a few words, Yun Jian directly let a small organization bleed the mountains and rivers. Was she really just a teenage girl in her prime? Chapter 15:10. Only Director Zhang, Liu Yan, the middle-aged man, and Lin Wan could hear their conversation. Chaotian Hotel was huge, and the second floor was ridiculously large. There was a group of people walking back and forth with wine glasses in their hands. The wine glasses were filled with red wine, grape wine, and other alcoholic beverages. The scene was noisy, and everyone was talking about their own things. No one had the time to pay attention to this side. Therefore, only a few people could hear the conversation between Yao Lily and Yun Jian. At this moment, even Lin Wan was in a state of shock, not to mention Director Zhang, Liu Yan, and the middle-aged man. What did you say? She destroyed a small organization. Director Zhang, who stood not too far away from Yun Jian, gaped, unable to close his mouth as he stared at Yun Jian dumbfoundedly. No one in the room could react to his dumbfounded expression. Liu Yan was so scared that her face turned pale. She couldn't even say a word. Who could tell her that this young lady was so scary? Liu Yan recalled what Yun Jian said when she first saw her. She trembled. Could it be that Yun Jian really had some sort of backing? She just said that to Yun Jian. Would Yun Jian make a move on her? Liu Yan was a little afraid because Liu Yan was born in the countryside. She was able to climb to her current position because of her excellent bed skills. She seduced many directors and investors in exchange. In the past, Liu Yan was despised by others for being a country bumpkin. When she saw Yun Jian, she remembered that she was ridiculed as a country bumpkin, so she also ridiculed Yun Jian. After all, Liu Yan didn't have a powerful background, so when she thought that Yun Jian had a powerful background, she was really scared. But thinking about it carefully, she was now an international movie queen. Who could do anything to her? Especially a girl like Yun Jian. She probably only looked powerful on the surface, but in reality, she probably didn't have a powerful background. In addition, for the sake of her own face, Liu Yan naturally could not show a weak appearance. While everyone was still in a daze, Yun Jian replied to Yao Lily's message. When she replied to Yao Lily's message, the corners of her lips curved upwards. She gently pursed her lips into a faint smile and briefly spat out 2 words, life. In Country Z, she naturally couldn't act like she did in the organization. After all, her family still had to survive in Country Z. She, Yun Jian, was not an impulsive person. Hey, superstars, so you're here. At this time, a male voice suddenly interjected from the side. When they turned their heads slightly, they could see a man in a suit and leather shoes walking over. The man had short blonde hair, and he looked like a standard handsome man in the eyes of Westerners. Big eyes, a high nose bridge, and fair skin. Without even looking, it was obvious that this man was a superstar. The man spoke in Chinese, but his Chinese wasn't very accurate. Yun Jian raised her eyes slightly and glanced at the man, then turned her gaze back. The man whistled and looked at Yun Jian's otherworldly face for a long time. Yun Jian didn't know this man at all, but Lin Wan, who was next to her, instantly screamed when she saw the man, Richard. It's actually Richard. The Richard who won the Oscar Best Actor award a while ago. Ah! He's so handsome. Much more handsome than on TV. Richard's appearance was considered a handsome man in the eyes of Westerners. He had short blonde hair and a high nose bridge. At least in Lin Wan's aesthetic view, Richard's appearance was like a prince on a white horse in her mind. He was graceful and elegant, and no matter what occasion he attended, he gave off a sense of gentlemanliness. However, Richard saw Yun Jian at this time, but Richard was a very elegant prince. Even if he only saw Yun Jian, he still spoke to Yun Jian and Lin Wan in a very polite manner. 2 beautiful princesses, may I know your names? Chapter 15:11. Richard's appearance attracted the attention of many women present. Regardless of whether it was the surrounding staff or some small female celebrities, they all sized up Richard. It was not an exaggeration to say that Richard was a graceful prince. The girls all fantasized that one day, their Prince Charming would ride a white horse to welcome them back to the big castle. It was precisely because of this fairy tale that Richard's appearance and words and actions were in line with the standards of a fairy tale, that he became popular. As an actor, Richard's appearance was undoubtedly in line with the standards of women's aesthetics. As a graceful prince, his words and actions were no different from the image of a Prince Charming in everyone's mind. Just like now, Richard was bending down, putting his hands together, and bowing 90 degrees to Yun Jian and Lin Wan. Bowing before asking for someone's name was the etiquette of Richard's country. After Richard became popular, there were even people who said that Richard was a noble prince of a certain country. In the world, there were still many countries that adhered to the king system. In a country, one leader had the final say, and the leader's relatives were the nobles in the palace. As early as when the last emperor of Country Z abdicated, such a tyrannical system had been overthrown. In today's world, there were still many countries that retained such a king system. Therefore, when Richard became popular, there were reporters who tried to track him down. In the end, they found out that his background was quite huge. He was also a prince of a certain country. When this news came out, it was a direct sensation in the entertainment industry. After many people heard this news, they liked Richard even more. After all, Richard became popular as a Prince Charming when he first appeared. The Prince Charming that Richard played was not only handsome, but also elegant and gentlemanly like a real prince. After the news that Richard was suspected to be a real prince of a certain country was exposed, the entire entertainment industry was shaken. More importantly, after this, Richard became even more popular. A man with an elegant and gentle temperament like a Prince Charming acted as a Prince Charming. Later, it was reported that someone had seen him return to his castle. Most likely, he was a real prince. Once this news was reported, Richard became popular throughout the entertainment industry. He also became a Prince Charming in the hearts of countless girls. Lin Wan was a little girl who was completely mesmerized by Richard's handsomeness. Previously, when she saw Richard on TV, Lin Wan was mesmerized. Now that Richard was standing in front of her, Lin Wan felt that Richard was even more handsome in person than on TV. Lin Wan had been staring at Richard since he appeared. Now that she heard Richard ask for her name, she immediately rushed to reply, "My name is Lin Wan. This is my friend, Yun Jian." When Richard heard Yun Jian's name, he almost forgot about Lin Wan. Then, he added in a gentlemanly manner, "Yun Jian, that's a nice name." "Ahem, Lin Wan, your name is not bad either." But at the same time, Richard's eyes were still fixed on Yun Jian. "Kid, I haven't seen you for a long time. You're getting better and better." Yao Lily walked over and patted Richard on the shoulder. Obviously, Yao Lily and Richard had a good relationship. "Sister Lily, you haven't come to my house for a long time. My sister talks about you every day. Do you want to bring your 2 friends to my house for 2 days next week? Let's get to know each other better." Richard glanced at Yun Jian, then spoke to Yao Lily in a very familiar manner. Of course, his innate gentlemanly manner was still the same as before. Chapter 15-12. Lin Wan was probably the only person who couldn't tell that Richard was indirectly inviting Yun Jian to his house to play. When Lin Wan heard that Richard wanted Yao Lily to bring her and Yun Jian to his house to play, she almost jumped up in excitement. However, years of family education made Lin Wan suppress her inner emotions. In a place where no one could see, Lin Wan was holding Yun Jian's hand tightly at this moment. She was so excited that she almost screamed out loud. Richard was a superstar. An international superstar. He even won an Oscar for Best Actor. With such an achievement and the fact that Richard was most likely a real prince, coupled with his handsome face, high nose bridge, fair skin, and big eyes, Lin Sanju could not help but wonder. He was the Prince Charming in the hearts of girls. There was no one else like him. Logically speaking, Lin Wan wasn't even qualified to meet a superstar like Richard. However, Richard actually invited Lin Wan to his house to play. Lin Wan felt that if she didn't hold Yun Jian's hand at this moment, she was afraid that she would have fainted from the excitement. "Do you provide food and accommodation?" "If you provide food and accommodation, we can stay there for a few days." Yao Lily laughed twice, then patted Richard's shoulder and raised her hand to withdraw from Richard's shoulder. Yao Lily was obviously joking. Richard naturally knew that Yao Lily was joking, so Richard responded, "Of course, if Sister Lily brings her friends to play, I will provide food and accommodation here. You can also go on a scenic tour. There are a lot of scenic spots in our country." Richard said so much just because he wanted Yun Jian to go with them. Yun Jian might not have the intention to follow, but Lin Wan was completely infatuated with him. Richard said until here, and then he turned to look at Yun Jian and Lin Wan and solemnly invited, "Two beautiful princesses, I welcome you to travel to my country next week. How about it?" When Richard said this, his eyes were fixed on Yun Jian, as if he was waiting for Yun Jian's reply. Lin Wan didn't notice that Richard was staring at Yun Jian. The moment she was invited by Richard, Lin Wan shook Yunjian's hand and almost jumped up in excitement. I'll go. We'll go. We'll definitely go. Movie King Richard invited them to his country to play. Lin Wan was Richard's fan. As a movie fan, Lin Wan definitely had to go when Richard invited her. Yunjian, let's go together, okay? Go, just treat it as a trip. Lin Wan shook Yunjian's arm and pouted. She looked quite cute. Let's go. Since Lin Wan wanted to go, Yunjian didn't mind. Coincidentally, Xiao Yunju and the other two had stayed at home for a long time. Yunjian planned to take Xiao Yunju and the other two out for a walk. Speaking of which, Xiao Yunju and the other two hadn't been abroad before. This time, it would be a good idea to take the three of them out to see the world. But I want to bring my brother and sister along, Yunjian said. How could Richard reject Yunjian when she said that she wanted to go with them? Go, go, go. The more the merrier, the merrier. Richard was afraid that Yunjian would change her mind and say that she wouldn't go, so he quickly said. Lu Yan actually liked Richard a lot. So when she heard that Yunjian and Lin Wan were invited to go to Richard's country, she shamelessly looked at Richard and said, Brother Richard, you're going to go to Richard's country. Brother Chad, they're all going to your country. Does your little sister Lu Yan want to go with them? Richard felt a chill in his heart when he heard Lu Yan's words. However, he still nodded and said, let's all go together. It'll be fun. Lin Wan suddenly thought of Muing, so she quickly asked Richard, can I bring my other friend along? Chapter 15-13. After the dinner party at Yao Lily's company ended, Lin Wan was still holding on to Yunjian's hand on the way back to the dormitory. She couldn't believe that Richard had really invited her and Yunjian to his country for a vacation. Logically speaking, Richard was a public figure and Richard usually wouldn't invite people to his home. After all, as a public figure and a famous international movie king, Richard was most afraid of people knowing where his home was and his identity and status. However, Richard had actually invited her and Yunjian to his home. Lin Wan couldn't believe it. We have to hurry and tell Muing this good news. We'll be leaving after school on May 1st next week. Tell her to pack her things and get ready. As Lin Wan spoke, she took out her phone and dialed Mu Ying's number. These days, Muing had been sticking to Mad Dragon every day. She had originally given up on being with Mad Dragon because she felt that she wasn't good enough for Mad Dragon. They were no longer people from the same world. However, Mad Dragon had been staying in Min City these days, pestering Muing day and night. At night, when Muing was resting in the Mu family's villa, Mad Dragon directly jumped in through the window on the second floor. When Muing reacted, she felt that the window behind her was opened. When the cold wind blew, the moment she turned around, Mad Dragon hugged her from behind. Then, he forced her to be intimate with him. Muing tried her best to reject him, but it was to no avail. In the end, Muing could only compromise. It was just like how the Mad Dragon had not eaten his favorite piece of meat for hundreds of years. Now that the most delicious piece of meat had disappeared forever, he suddenly discovered that it had reappeared one day. If it weren't for Mu Ying's strong refusal, Mad Dragon would have eaten her. Of course, even now, Mad Dragon and Muing had already done everything except for the last step. At this moment, Muing and Mad Dragon were lying naked on the bed. At this moment, the phone rang. Muing hesitated for a while. In the end, she glanced at Mad Dragon and gestured Mad Dragon to shush him. Then, she picked up the phone. As soon as he picked up the phone, Lin Wan's voice immediately came out. Muing, let me tell you, we've been invited by the international superstar Richard to his country. I'm really happy. Hee, I've already said that I want to go with you. Are you going? Let's go together, okay? Mooing glanced at Mad Dragon and refused. I think I'll pass. On the other end, Lin Wan, who had offered Mooing a lot of benefits but was rejected by Mooing, could only hang up helplessly. She's not going. We'll have to go together then. Lin Wan was only asking Mooing to go with them out of kindness. She thought that everyone liked to see superstars, but since Mooing refused to go, Lin Wan would not force her. Yunjian replied with a press of her red lips. A week passed quickly. On Friday, school was dismissed. Yunjian went back to Longmen City to bring Xiao Yunju, Lu Yan, and Lin Wan to meet Yao Lily. Yao Lily, Lu Yan, and Richard were international superstars, but they had not left Country Z. It was obvious that they were waiting for Yunjian and Lin Wan. Yunjian and Lin Wan brought Xiao Yunju, Lu Yan, and Lu Yan, who were carrying small backpacks, to meet Yao Lily and the others at the airport. Lu Yan glanced at Yunjian once they met and scoffed softly before moving to the side. Yao Lily, Lu Yan, and Richard were fully armed at the airport. It was necessary. Although they were in Country Z, if they were recognized as international superstars, not only would they be surrounded, Yunjian, Lin Wan, and the others would be implicated as well. Richard was the Prince of Country H and they were flying to Country H together. Yunjian only brought a backpack that contained some of Xiao Yunju, Lu Yan, and Lu Yan's textbooks. Yunjian was worried that Xiao Yunju, Lu Yan, and Lu Yan would be too tired, so she took some of the textbooks from Xiao Yunju, Lu Yan, and Lu Yan's backpacks and carried them on her back. Xiao Yunju rubbed his hands in the airport waiting room. Richard saw that Xiao Yunju, Lu Yan, and Lu Yan held a special place in Yunjian's heart, so he squatted down in front of Xiao Yunju and tried to butter them up. Little brother, little sister, you're so cute. As he spoke, Richard took out 3 lollipops from his trouser pocket and handed them to Xiao Yunju, Lu Yan, and Lu Yan. Xiao Yunju, Lu Yan, and Lu Yan took the lollipops, but Xiao Yunju still complained when he took the lollipops. I still prefer the lollipops that Big Brother CE gave us. Richard's eyes flickered when he heard Lu Yan call him Big Brother CE, but Richard didn't know who Lu Yan was referring to. Big sister, why didn't Big Brother CE come? I want to see Big sister and Big Brother CE kissing. Xiao Yunju pouted and turned his head to Yunjian as he spoke. Richard trembled when he heard this. Who was this Big Brother CE that Lu Yan was talking about? He even kissed Yunjian before. Richard's expression darkened at once. Just as he was thinking this, a mellow voice sounded. What entered Richard's eyes was a man who was taller, more handsome, and more perfect than him. He was so perfect that even gods and men would be envious of him. Of course I'll kiss my woman. Why didn't you call me along when you went out to play? Xiao Jian, you haven't learned your lesson. Toward the end of his words, Richard saw the handsome man who was more outstanding than him and had attracted all the girls' gazes the moment he appeared walking over from behind Yunjian. The man wrapped his arm around Yunjian's slim waist and took the heavy backpack from Yunjian with his other hand to carry it on his back. It was as if he was reluctant to let her carry such a heavy backpack and was afraid that she would tire herself out. Coupled with his doting gaze on Yunjian, it was as if he couldn't bear to let her carry such a heavy backpack. Lastly, he intimately leaned into Yunjian's ear and said the embarrassing words in front of everyone. Richard's face darkened to the extreme. Chapter 15-14. Richard saw Ce hugging Yunjian's slender waist and leaning intimately against Yunjian. He even lowered his head slightly and whispered in Yunjian's ear. Seeing this scene, Richard almost went crazy on the spot. However, years of cultivation allowed Richard to suppress his anger. He tried his best to pull out a handsome smile and said to Ce, little brother, you are Richard was obviously older than CE. CE was only 20 years old, but Richard was already 25. Richard was 9 years older than Yunjian, but Richard didn't feel that he was older. In their country, it was normal for men to be older than women by 10 to 20 years. Richard also knew that Yunjian wasn't old enough to get married in country Z. As long as she wasn't married, he had a way to snatch Yunjian away from CE. Therefore, Richard wasn't in a hurry. Richard planned to learn more about CE. Only then would he have a way to snatch Yunjian away from CE. After all, Richard was a prince of country H's royal bloodline. No matter what, he was better than this man who came out of nowhere. Richard was waiting for CE's reply. He originally thought that CE would introduce his name and age to him. However, to his surprise, CE cast a sidelong glance at Richard with his hawk-like sharp eyes. Richard was startled by CE's glance. However, he saw CE's thin lips curl up slightly. He hugged Yunjian's slender waist and announced his possession. "I'm her husband." "Husband. Husband." The next exclamation came from Lu Yen and Yao Lily. The former had been staring at CE. She had never seen such a handsome man and was mesmerized by him. The latter, Yao Lily, was surprised. How could someone like SS be married? SS, you're married. What kind of joke is this? You actually. Yao Lily looked at Yunjian in horror and asked. Although Yao Lily didn't know Yunjian's exact identity, she knew that Yunjian was an internationally shocking existence. She was someone that no one could surpass and could only be admired from afar. Back then, Yao Lily could enter and leave Enhun freely. Other than the 4 leaders of Enhun and the leader of the organization, Yao Lily did not know who else could do so. Yao Lily thought that someone like Yunjian would never be able to find a partner in this lifetime. She didn't expect that Yunjian was married. Richard froze on the spot when he heard what CE said. She was married. He thought that CE was at most Yunjian's boyfriend. He never expected CE to be Yunjian's husband. Little brother, you really know how to joke. Aren't you Chinese not allowed to get married before reaching the legal age? Although I'm a foreigner, I still know this common knowledge. Don't lie to me that I'm not educated. Richard tried his best to act normal so that he wouldn't show that he was overly worried about Yunjian. Richard just wanted to hear that Yunjian wasn't married. Unexpectedly, CE reached into his trouser pocket and took out the country our marriage certificate that he always carried with him. Then, he waved it in front of Richard, Lu Yen, and Yao Lily. As if he was afraid that the marriage certificate before him would be torn apart, CE tucked the precious marriage certificate back into his pants pocket after showing it off expressionlessly with a small smile on his lips. Country our marriage certificate. Xiao Jian and I are officially married. The familiar scene made Yunjian tug at the corners of her lips. Chapter 15:15. Seeing CE showing off his and Yunjian's marriage certificate, Richard's face darkened to the extreme. He looked as if he had stepped on dog shit. She's really married. She's really married. Oh my god. SS, you're really married. Before Richard could recover from his shock, Yao Lily could no longer control her inner feelings after seeing CE showing off his marriage certificate. She screamed at Yunjian. Yes, Yunjian nodded slightly, tacitly acknowledging the fact that she and CE were married. Oh my god, you didn't even inform me that you're married. When are you going to invite me to your wedding? Yao Lily walked up to Yunjian. If CE wasn't standing behind Yunjian, she would have walked over and wrapped her arms around Yunjian's shoulders. Brother CE said that sister is going to university, so he's going to hold a wedding banquet. Then, we'll be able to eat really, really, really delicious wedding candies. Duan shook the two braids on her head and blinked cutely at Yao Lily. Wow, little girl, you're so cute. Yao Lily squatted down and patted Duanli's head. Duanli shyly hid behind Xiao Yunju. Richard's eyes turned red when he saw Ce holding Yunjian's hand. Envy was inevitable. Richard really wished that he was the one holding Yunjian's hand. However, many years of self-control allowed Richard to control himself from swearing. Lu Yan stood at the side and envied Yunjian so much that her eyes shone. Although she won the title of International Best Actress some time ago, she had suffered a lot of setbacks before she obtained this title. In other words, she had to serve many men. Sometimes, she would even be beaten up by perverted men. Finally, she obtained her current status. But what about Yunjian? How did she get Richard's love so easily? If Yunjian wanted to enter the entertainment industry, just by the fact that she was liked by Richard, as long as she agreed to be his mistress, it would be a piece of cake for her to reach her current position. Lu Yan just could not stand Yunjian acting all high and mighty when she had such a great opportunity. By the way, is your friend back from the toilet? We'll be boarding soon. Yao Lily reluctantly put down the cute Duanli and stood up to ask Yunjian. Lin Wan had gone to the washroom before Ce appeared and had yet to return. I'll go take a look. Yunjian tilted her head and said. There's no need. She's already back. Yao Lily suddenly saw Lin Wan running towards them happily from not too far away. The few of them then looked towards Lin Wan. Lu Yan stood behind Yao Lily. She frowned and immediately reached out to Yao Lily's hat and mask from behind her. Yao Lily was an international superstar and a public figure. She stood there waiting to board the plane, fully armed. She wore a cap on her head and a mask on her mouth. She was completely afraid of being recognized by the fans at the airport. If she was chased by them, it would cause chaos. Lu Yan quietly pulled Yao Lily's hat and mask off her head. In this way, Yao Lily's face was directly exposed in front of everyone. Lu Yan, you. Yao Lily finally reacted. Some people had already noticed Yao Lily. Hey, isn't that? That's the international superstar Yao Lily. Oh my god. Yao Lily is at the airport. Hurry up and chase after her. When the people around them noticed Yao Lily, they immediately became restless. In an instant, everyone rushed over to her. She turned her head and saw that Lu Yan had already hidden herself. In such a situation, Yao Lily was likely to be surrounded by the crowd. After all, as a public figure, being exposed in a public place would cause chaos. There might even be a stampede. As soon as Lin Wan came over, she was shocked by the crowd. This was obviously done by Lu Yan on purpose. If Yunjian and Ce were not here, and Xiao Yunju, Duanli, and Duanya were children, there would be a high possibility of a stampede when the crowd gathered around Yao Lily. Xiao Yunju, Duanli, and Duanya, who were not tall, would have a high chance of dying. Yunjian's face darkened. She commanded without fear, Yao Lily, lead the crowd to the east and run to the west. Get on the plane immediately. I'll see you on the plane. With that, Yunjian picked up Duanya. Chapter 15-16. Richard had already noticed Lu Yan's actions when she tore off Yao Lily's mask and hat. Lu Yan wanted to cause a riot at the airport, so she tore off Yao Lily's mask and hat. As an international superstar, Yao Lily was immediately discovered. Richard was not stupid. Of course, he could see that Lu Yan did not like Yunjian. She exposed Yao Lily in front of everyone at the airport. Her purpose was obvious. Because Yunjian and Yao Lily were friends, when Lu Yan tore off Yao Lily's mask, the surrounding people would immediately discover the identity of Yao Lily and rush forward. In this way, Yun Jian would also be surrounded. Lu Yan was definitely thinking that she would be satisfied if she could hurt Yun Jian even a little bit. Richard saw Lu Yan's actions and did not stop her when he had the ability to. That was because he wanted to be a hero and save the beauty. Yun Jian would definitely be frightened by the situation just now. Yao Lily was surrounded by fans. Yun Jian and Ce, who were standing next to Yao Lily, must have never encountered such a situation of being surrounded by so many people. Especially Yun Jian, she would definitely be frightened. At this time, Richard originally wanted to take advantage of the chaos to grab Yun Jian's hand and take her away from the riot before his identity was exposed, so that Yun Jian would have a good impression of him. Richard thought that a delicate and beautiful girl like Yun Jian would definitely be at a loss when encountering such a situation. Then, he would go over and grab her hand, taking her out of this terrifying place surrounded by people amidst the chaos. Yun Jian would definitely be captivated by his extraordinarily handsome side. Richard was probably thinking too much. He would never have thought that Yun Jian would be able to remain calm in the face of a large wave of people armed with machine guns. Now that she was surrounded by a group of weak people, how could she be afraid? Richard's idea was beautiful, but the reality was that after Yun Jian calmly gave instructions to retreat, she turned around and led Xiao Yunju and Lin Wan away with Ce without looking back. She gave instructions so well that it was as if she was born to be the ruler of the crowd. Richard originally wanted to chase after Yun Jian and Ce, but surprisingly, Yun Jian and Ce left his sight after a while. The crowd behind him quickly blocked Richard's path to catch up with him. I can't take it anymore. Yun Jian, I have to go to the toilet again. My stomach hurts, Lin Wan said as she clutched her stomach when she followed Yun Jian and Ce to the boarding gate. You guys board the plane first. I'll be there in a while, Lin Wan said to Yun Jian and Ce before running to the toilet. Sister, let's board the plane. Xiao Yunju, who was grabbed by the collar by Ce, was finally put down on the ground. He said excitedly to Yun Jian and Ce. Seeing that Xiao Yunju, Duanli, and Duanya were so excited, Yun Jian held Duanli and Duanya's hands while Ce grabbed Xiao Yunju's collar and boarded the plane first. Since they were traveling with Yao Lily and the other two superstars, Yun Jian and the others had bought first-class tickets. Xiao Yunju and the other two each had a seat. There weren't many first-class passengers. Perhaps because Yun Jian and the others boarded the plane earlier, there weren't many passengers on the plane. Ce's seat was right next to Yun Jian's and he was holding Yun Jian's hand tightly. Many planes could be seen through the window, so Xiao Yunju and the others were so excited that they couldn't care less about Yun Jian and Ce. After waiting for about 10 minutes, Yao Lily and Richard finally broke through the crowd and boarded the plane. Richard had just boarded the plane when he saw Ce sitting next to Yun Jian. He sat in his seat and leaned over Yun Jian's body. He placed his long and slender hand on the back of Yun Jian's head and leaned over Yun Jian's chest. He lowered his head slightly. From afar, Ce looked like he was lowering his head to kiss Yun Jian. Richard immediately clenched his fists. At this moment, Ce saw Richard's figure reflected in the plane's window. His thin lips curved and he directly kissed Yun Jian's alluring red lips in front of Richard and the others. Ce was originally helping Yun Jian tuck her hair behind her ear. However, when he suddenly kissed her, Yun Jian couldn't react at all. She even accidentally let out a soft moan. Chapter 15-17. He did it on purpose. He had purposely kissed Yun Jian in front of him. Richard was so angry that he almost vomited blood because of Ce's actions. Richard entered the entertainment industry because of his interest. In addition, he had a strong background and was born handsome. Richard was undoubtedly a lucky man who had been kissed by God. In the entertainment industry, Richard had never hit a wall. Whether it was in love or in his career, Richard had always been a smooth-sailing person. But when it came to love, Richard had always been strict. He wanted to find a woman that he truly liked. Over the years, he had met and interacted with many women, but Richard had never met one that he liked. Until a week ago, when he saw Yunjian. That day, Yunjian stood in the distance. Her exquisite and beautiful face and figure were not as enchanting as Yao Lily's, nor were they as seductive as Lu Yan's. But Richard had never seen such a beautiful girl. Her figure, which was not considered tall, was just right for gold. Her face, which was not enchanting or seductive, had a hint of the purity and beauty of a young girl. Also, her small lips opened and closed. Richard admitted that he had never seen such a beautiful girl. So at that time, he was deeply fascinated by Yunjian and could not extricate himself. So much so that when he found out that Yunjian had a man and was even married, he did not want to give up. Richard was the Prince Charming in the hearts of countless girls. He sat on a country's property and was the real prince of each country. Whether it was his looks, wealth, identity, or status, he was an impeccable existence. In the past, if he liked any woman, she would try her best to climb into his bed. But now, he had hit a wall repeatedly. Ce had not really kissed Yunjian's little mouth. In the end, he saw Richard coming in from outside the plane. Originally, he only wanted to tuck Yunjian's hair behind her ear. But when Richard came in, he really kissed Yunjian's little mouth in front of everyone. Yunjian was kissed suddenly. The moment Ce kissed her, her eyes widened. After looking at Ce for 2 seconds, she closed her eyes. Knowing Ce's character of not giving up until he achieved his goal, Yunjian simply reached out and kissed Ce back in front of Richard. Seeing this scene, Richard wanted to vomit blood even more. Most importantly, Xiao Yunju and the other 3 beside them noticed Yunjian and Ce's actions. Yunju, Duanli, and Duanya clapped their hands excitedly. It's kissing. Brother Ce and sister are kissing each other again. Kissing each other. When Richard heard this, he wanted to vomit blood even more. Did this mean that this was not the first time Ce and Yunjian had done this? Ahem. Can't you guys watch the occasion? This is a public place, and there are people passing by. Kissing her in front of so many people, is that all you have? Richard resisted the urge to rush forward and pull Ce away. He tried his best to control his emotions and tried to speak to Ce calmly. In the end, Richard gritted his teeth as he spoke to Ce. After hearing Richard's words, Ce finally raised his head and let go of Yunjian's tender lips. Richard could clearly see the traces of Ce's kiss on Yunjian's red lips. Richard clenched his fists again. On the other side, Ce smirked and retorted Richard with his lips curled into a smirk. We are legally married. It's legal for me to kiss her. Ce's slender fingers ran through Yunjian's hair. When he spoke, his face was very close to Yunjian's, but his words were directed at Richard. Ce said this smoothly. Just as he said this, Ce's lips curled again. This time, he turned to look at Yunjian with his black eyes. His eyes revealed an endless amount of affection. After a pause, Ce spoke again shamelessly. This time, he directly said something that made Richard so angry that he almost couldn't stand. Chapter 15-18. The last part of Ce's words really infuriated Richard, driving him mad. Bed? He had sex with Yunjian. When Yunjian heard Ce say this so naturally with Xiao Yunju and the other 2 little cuties sitting next to them, she reached out and pinched Ce. This made Richard even crazier. Didn't Yunjian's subtle actions show that she and Ce had a good relationship? However, this was not the end of it. Xiao Yunju also joined in. Brother Ce and sister always play kissing on the bed, and they don't even let us watch. Shame, shame. Brother Ce and sister are having an affair. He he he. As soon as Xiao Yunju finished speaking, he was dragged by Duanli and Duanya to run and play with all the seats on the plane. They were having a great time. The plane had not taken off yet. The airport in 1999 was not as strict as it was now, and there were some essential differences. Xiao Yunju's words almost made Richard explode. I'm going to the washroom, Richard said through gritted teeth. Ce sneered. At the same time, he did not let go of Yunjian's hand. The moment the plane was about to take off, Lin Wan boarded the plane. Seeing Ce and Yunjian together, Lin Wan was not surprised. She already knew about the relationship between Ce and Yunjian. Originally, Ce did not have a seat. Lin Wan gave the seat to Ce, and Lin Wan squeezed in with Duanya. The airport in this era was not as strict as it was now. Lu Yan was the last to board the plane. As soon as Lu Yan boarded the plane, she was caught by Yao Lily. Lu Yan, what did you mean just now? Yao Lily's expression was very ugly. What do you mean? You're blocking me. Get out of my way. Lu Yan pushed the Yao Lily aside and walked over to her seat arrogantly. Yao Lily and Lu Yan had always been on bad terms. Today's incident had taught Yao Lily a lesson. Next time, he decided to guard against Lu Yan. From here to Country H, it would take about 10 hours by long-distance flight. 10 hours later, they finally arrived at their destination. H country is a very beautiful country. It is not poor. It is a highly developed capitalist country, famous for seawalls, windmills, tulips, and a tolerant social atmosphere. As soon as they got off the plane and walked out of the airport, Yunjian and the others could see the tulip lawn filled with eyeballs. The scenery in front of him was very beautiful, giving people a feeling that nothing could be more beautiful. The butler has sent someone to pick us up. They will be here soon. Richard had been looking at Ce holding Yunjian's hand and said casually. As soon as he finished speaking, a large tour bus drove over. Everyone got on the bus and was led by Richard's butler to the royal courtyard of Country H, Richard's home. As soon as they entered the royal courtyard, even an international superstar like Lu Yan could not help but exclaim, "My God, isn't this place too luxurious? It's just like a castle." Hearing Lu Yan's praise, Richard turned to look at Yunjian. Richard looked as if he wanted to be praised by Yunjian. After all, the place he was most proud of was this huge royal courtyard of his home. This was completely a Western castle, a fairy tale world in girls' fantasies. Just when Richard looked at Yunjian with confidence and thought that Yunjian would definitely praise him, he heard Yunjian's indifferent voice. The famous royal courtyard of Country H is just a so-so. Yunjian's words were light, but in Lu Yan's ears, it immediately changed the meaning. Oh, what? Have you ever seen a place more luxurious than this? This is the royal courtyard of Country H. It's rare in the world. As an international movie star, I have been to so many places, but I have never seen a place more luxurious than this. You are just a teenage girl. Have you ever been to a place more luxurious than this? Chapter 15-19. Everyone could tell from Lu Yan's sarcasm that she disliked Yunjian. Everyone present didn't like Lu Yan's existence, but Richard was too embarrassed to drive her away. After all, Lu Yan was an international superstar and had won an International Best Actress award not too long ago. She had countless fans and her current status in the international scene was not to be trifled with. Lu Yan was already prejudiced against Yun Jian, so when Yun Jian said what she said just now, Lu Yan was aggressive toward Yun Jian. She was merely using Yun Jian's words to oppress Yun Jian. This place is indeed small and run down. Ce spoke before Yun Jian could speak, his gaze fixed on Yun Jian. Right after he said that, Lu Yan twitched her lips and was about to retort Ce, who was speaking up for Yun Jian, when Ce's rich voice rang again. It can't even compare to the corner of my and Xiao Jian's newlywed room. Ce's ability to lie through his teeth was getting better and better. Even the most illusory things could be said to be true by him. Once he said that, Richard's focus was no longer on the fact that his country H's royal courtyard was being questioned. Instead, newlywed room. They even had a newlywed room. Although he knew that Ce and Yun Jian were legally married in country R since they had a marriage certificate in country R, Richard still could not accept it. He had finally taken a liking to a woman and she ended up doing everything with someone else. Cough, cough, cough. My father knows that you're coming and has ordered my mother to set up a banquet in the palace. Shall we go over now? Richard did not want to hear Ce boasting about how loving he and Yun Jian were, so he quickly changed the topic. Although Richard looked calm on the surface, his heart was actually broken. Seeing that he had achieved his goal, Ce was satisfied. He held Yun Jian's hand with one hand and Xiao Yunju with the other. Yun Jian held Duan Li's hand while Duan Li held Duanya's hand. The group of people walked towards the country H's palace. It was not an exaggeration to say that they were walking in the palace. Looking around, if they had not been to places bigger and more luxurious than this, they would really think that this was the biggest and most luxurious place. The ruler of country H was Richard's father, the king of country H. Of course, Richard's father was busy dealing with the country's affairs every day. Trivial matters like entertaining guests or managing the palace naturally fell to Richard's mother. The royal palace of country H was completely different from the royal palace of country Z. The royal palace of country H was completely built with Western architecture. It looked tall and powerful. As soon as she walked into the royal palace of H country, Yun Jian saw a graceful and luxuriously dressed woman sitting at a long table not far away. The table was about 10 meters long and there were all kinds of refreshments on it. As long as one looked from afar, one would know that this was definitely the style of a noble. The woman was wearing an exclusive queen's crown on her head. Needless to say, this woman was Richard's mother and also the queen of country H, Marcia. You're back. The woman sat in a dignified manner. She looked up at Richard and asked in country H's own language. Lu Yan, Lin Wan, and the others didn't understand. Mother, I'm back. These are my friends. After Richard greeted Marcia, the queen of country H, he said calmly to Marcia. Yes, Suli has been thinking about you. Looking at the time, it's time for her to come downstairs, Marcia said. She was still talking to Richard in country H's language. Suli was Richard's younger sister. As soon as Marcia finished speaking, Yun Jian raised her eyebrows. The next second, she saw a figure running down a spiral staircase somewhere in the palace. It was a delicate-looking little girl, about 11 or 12 years old. Chapter 15-20. Suli was Richard's younger sister. Yao Lily had been to H country before because Yao Lily and Richard were close friends. Yao Lily had been to H country before, so Suli and Yao Lily had known each other for a long time. Suli liked Yao Lily very much, so when she saw Yao Lily, Suli immediately threw herself at her. Is this Miss Lu Yan who won the International Movie Queen Award recently? As the Queen of H country, Marcia was fluent in many languages. Chinese was the most common language, so as the Queen of H country, Marcia was naturally fluent in it. At this moment, Marcia turned to Lu Yan and asked in Chinese. beautiful queen, I am. Lu Yan behaved appropriately in front of a person of high status. She first saluted Marcia with H country's etiquette and then replied politely. Sister Lily is my distinguished guest. She has been to our house before. Su Li said to Marcia while holding one of Yao Lily's hands. Yes. Marcia was a very noble lady. Hearing Su Li's words, Marcia nodded at Su Li. As the queen of H country, Marcia paid a lot of attention to her words and actions. After getting to know Yao Lily and Lu Yan, Marcia glanced at Yun Jian, Ce, and Lin Wan with Her Majesty as the queen. Seeing that Yun Jian and the others were not well dressed and did not behave like the nobles in the palace, Marcia did not even bother to ask for Yun Jian and Ce's names. Marcia just turned to Richard and said to Richard in a polite manner, let your friends sit down and eat. In Marcia's words, it was obvious that she was the queen while Yun Jian and the others were lowly people. But this was normal. After all, Marcia was the queen of H country. As the queen of H country, of course she was nobler than others. International stars like Yao Lily and Lu Yan had strong fans. Therefore, Marcia felt that only Yao Lily and Lu Yan could be counted as her distinguished guests. As for Yun Jian, Ce, and the rest, they were probably wearing street clothes. As the queen of H country, of course Marcia would not point at Yun Jian and mock her like Peng Kai Hui. As the queen, she still had the demeanor of the queen of H country. Yun Jian and Ce naturally felt that Marcia was mocking them. But Yun Jian and Ce did not care about Marcia's opinion did not matter. If it were not for Yao Lily, Yun Jian would have taken Xiao Yunju and the others to have fun. Before they started eating, Richard, who was sitting 3 meters away from Yun Jian, pointed at the dishes in front of Yun Jian and said, Yun Jian, the dish in front of you is called herring. It's a specialty of H country. You can try it. Richard still did not give up. Yun Jian's eyes flickered at that but she did not respond. Marcia, the queen of H country, who was also Richard's mother, saw that her son was so concerned about Yun Jian. She moved her mouth slightly. The etiquette of the palace made Marcia have the habit of eating without talking. Even if the sky fell down, she would eat first and then talk. As soon as Richard finished speaking, Ce, who was sitting next to Yun Jian, picked up a piece of herring with his chopsticks and fed it to Yun Jian. Yun Jian did not think much of it. She held Ce's chopsticks in her mouth and ate the piece of herring. Is it good? Ce stared at Yun Jian with his black eyes, as if he was the one who made the dish. When Richard saw this, he was so angry that he almost went berserk. Brother Ce is feeding my sister fish. I want it too. I want it too. Chestnut, give me a piece. Little Yunju asked in anticipation when he saw Ce taking a piece of herring meat for Duanli with his head tilted to look at her. I can't stand you. Can't you do it yourself? Duanli said to Xiao Yunju in a playful tone. Chapter 1521. Duanli fed the herring meat to Xiao Yunju's mouth. Xiao Yunju bit it and chewed for a long time before swallowing it. Of course, he also spat out the fish bones that could not be eaten. Seeing that Xiao Yunju had swallowed the herring meat she fed him, Duanli shook her little head with 2 pigtails. She rested her chin on her hands and looked at Xiao Yunju. She smiled and asked Xiao Yunju, "Is it delicious?" This question was similar to what Ce asked Yun Jian just now. Yun Jian heard that Duanli's question coincided with Ce's. She pursed her lips and did not say anything. It's delicious. Chestnut's food is the best. Xiao Yunju gave Duanli a thumbs up. During the meal, except for the sentence that Richard said to Yun Jian at the beginning, Yao Lily, Lu Yan, and the others all ate in their bowls and did not say anything. The nobles in the palace had stricter requirements than ordinary people when they ate. One of the rules was that they were not allowed to talk during the meal. Otherwise, it would be regarded as impolite. This was the opposite in Z country. Z country's custom was to talk while eating. If you did not talk for a minute, you would feel bored. Therefore, you must talk while eating. As for people in H country, it was taboo to suck, burp and swallow during the meal. Otherwise, it would be regarded as impolite. On the other hand, Yunju and the other two boys sucked and burped, wolfing down the food when they were full. It was considered impolite. Ordinary people in H country would usually talk during the meal. However, in the palace of H country, talking was taboo during the meal. Therefore, what Xiao Yunju and the other two, Yunjian and Ce, did just now made Queen Marcia frown. However, Marcia did not say anything as she adhered to the etiquette of not talking while eating. On the other hand, Xiao Yunju and the other two were fooling around. Marcia was terrified as she watched them. She felt that these three naughty kids would flip the table over. In fear, Marcia ended the meal unhappily. Then, in front of everyone, Marcia asked the maid to rinse her mouth with the prepared mouthwash. She spat the mouthwash back into the basin and wiped her face with a wet towel before standing up. Hee hee. It was so delicious. I'm so full. Duanli rubbed her full belly and said to Xiao Yunju. Me too. Xiao Yunju stood up handsomely and said. Yunjian and Ce also stood up. Yao Lili and Lu Yan did not speak throughout the meal. They only spoke when they stood up and left the table. At this moment, Marcia, who could not bear it any longer, stood aside. Marcia calmed herself down and turned to look at Yunjian, Ce, and Xiao Yunju. She paused for a while and frowned. Are you Z people all so impolite when eating? Her words were full of contempt and mockery. Of course, as the queen, Marcia could not speak so directly to Yunjian and the others. After hearing Marcia's words, Yunjian raised her eyebrows slightly and was about to speak. Richard was afraid that Yunjian would annoy his mother and make things unpleasant. If that happened, he and Yunjian would not be able to get together in the future. Therefore, Richard spoke to Marcia before Yunjian could. Mother, this is the custom of the Z people. Please don't be offended. Let's go out for a walk. Anyone who comes is a guest. Anyone who comes is a guest. After hearing Richard's words, Yunjian's eyes turned cold. However, no one said anything at this moment. Although Marcia's expression was not good, as the Queen of H, she could not get angry. Therefore, Marcia controlled her emotions and turned to look at Lu Yan. She said kindly, You are Lu Yan, Yen, right? Do you want to go out for a walk? Marcia could tell that her son Richard liked Yunjian. However, in comparison, Marcia preferred someone like Lu Yan. Her son Richard was already very old. He was already 25 or 26 years old. However, he still had not found a girl that he liked. As his mother, Marcia could not help but feel anxious. On the other hand, Lu Yan was called out by Marcia. She was as excited as a maid in the harem who was appointed by the emperor. She quickly ran over and held Marcia's hand. Then, she said very politely. Okay, beautiful queen, I will accompany you at any time. Marcia liked people like Lu Yan. Therefore, she patted the back of Lu Yan's hand and turned to walk out with Lu Yan. Halfway through, Marcia turned around again. In order to not lose her hospitality as the queen, Marcia invited Yunjian, Ce, Yao Lili and the others. Come and walk with me. Anyone who comes is a guest. Chapter 1522. Between the host and the guests, the host was usually very polite. Sometimes, when the guests came, the host would even go to the gate to welcome the guests. Of course, this was only limited to the hosts who were very polite. However, Marcia gave people the feeling that she was the host. Her words were like orders that must be carried out, because she was a superior person. Even in front of Yao Lily and Lu Yan, Marcia did not lower her attitude. Even though Yao Lily and Lu Yan were international superstars and the spokespersons of the top figures in the entertainment circle. From the beginning to the end, Marcia had always maintained her cold demeanor and had never changed. Of course, all this could be explained by the fact that she was the queen of country H. As the queen of a country, she had to maintain her cold attitude. It's evening now. The weather here is not hot, so it's best to go out for a walk. The scenery in country H is so beautiful. If you take the child out for a walk, she won't be exposed to the sun in this weather. At this time, Yao Lily stood in front of Yun Jian and said to her. At the same time, Yao Lily looked down at Yun Jian's pink little face. Okay. Yun Jian originally did not want to go out with Marcia and the others. However, after hearing Yao Lily's words, he said that the weather was not very hot at this time of the year. If she took the child out for a walk, she would not be exposed to the sun. Considering this point, Yun Jian nodded. If Yun Jian wanted to go, how could Ci not go? Xiao Yunju and the other two also went out with them excitedly. Of course, Marcia had a special car to pick her up when she went out for a walk. After all, if a queen went out for a walk without any attendants or bodyguards, what would happen if she was assassinated? The special car took them to a field of tulips near the royal palace of country H. Tulips were planted by the road and in the field. There were also many herdsmen working in the field of tulips. This was a field of tulips, and there were windmills located not far from each other. Looking from the side of the road into the field, there were endless tulips. Tulips of various colors swayed in the field, giving people a very comfortable sense of beauty. In the evening sky, a red glow shone down from the horizon, hitting the cozy fields, giving people a very comfortable feeling. Walking in the field, Queen Marcia only allowed Lu Yan to hold her hand and chat with her while walking at the front. Yun Jian and the others followed behind. Richard wanted to approach Yun Jian, but was stopped by Ce. Because they were in a field, Xiao Yunju and the other two could run and jump as they pleased. As long as they didn't run into the road, they wouldn't be afraid of other accidents. At this time, Queen Marcia let Lu Yan hold her hand and walked in front. Marcia stopped in the middle of a tulip field. She turned sideways and suddenly asked the people around her on a whim. What kind of specialties do you girls have? Marcia looked at the girls around her. She wanted to choose a wife for her son, Richard, who could inherit the position of queen in the future. Beautiful queen, I know violin, piano, guitar, ballet, Latin dance. Lu Yan knew that Marcia liked her very much, so she deliberately moved closer to Marcia and said shyly. But I'm not very good at these things. I'm still learning now. My family wasn't very rich in the past, so I just started learning these things now. Lu Yan said and slightly raised her head to look at Marcia. Good girl. You're the best. If a person liked someone, they would be happy no matter what. But if a person didn't like someone, they would not be happy no matter what. Marcia patted the back of Lu Yan's hand and said gently. Yao Lily and Lin Wan also talked about their specialties. When Yun Jian was asked, Marcia looked at her from the corner of her eyes. What about you? What kind of musical instruments do you know? Marcia looked at Yun Jian with an indifferent look. She also didn't expect to hear Yun Jian's reply. Lu Yan glanced at Yun Jian coldly from the corner of her eyes. She thought that Yun Jian definitely didn't know anything and was a country bumpkin. But she didn't expect that Yun Jian's next words would directly stun Queen Marcia, Lu Yan, and all the servants around them. Yun Jian sneered and said, "What I know. Heavy weapons, guns, artillery, missiles, nuclear weapons, tracking and anti-tracking. As long as you can name it, there's nothing I don't know." Chapter 1523. It was not hard to imagine that Queen Marcia was a typical literary person. In her mind, a girl should behave like a good woman. A girl should do something that was worthy of being a girl. She should behave herself at home and be good at music, chess, calligraphy, and painting. She should not be too close to men before marriage. Such a girl was the real standard of a future daughter-in-law in Marcia's eyes. Yun Jian and Ce were always together. Marcia did not know about the relationship between Yun Jian and Ce, so she did not have a good first impression of Yun Jian. Moreover, Yun Jian's dressing was not what a noble girl should look like. Therefore, she could tell that Yun Jian was definitely not from a noble family. Therefore, Marcia was instinctively repulsed when she found out that her son was interested in Yun Jian. Lu Yan's behavior was very similar to Marcia's standard of a daughter-in-law. However, her son liked Yun Jian, so it was difficult to make a choice. Therefore, Marcia asked the question just now. Even if Yun Jian knew one or two things that girls should do, Marcia felt that as long as her son liked Yun Jian, she could still consider Yun Jian. Lu Yan could play so many musical instruments, dance and play. She was also an international superstar like her son. Marcia admired Lu Yan very much. Therefore, Marcia was very satisfied with Lu Yan as her daughter-in-law. As for Yun Jian, at most, she had the attitude that her son liked her and she wanted to observe if she was qualified to be her daughter-in-law. However, Marcia did not expect that she only asked Yun Jian if she knew something that girls should know. In the end, Yun Jian actually said that she knew how to use heavy weapons, guns and cannons, missiles and nuclear weapons. She also said that she knew how to kill people. Marcia was completely shocked by Yun Jian's words. God! Was this still something that a girl should say? Weapons, guns and cannons, these were things that men should do. But what about Yun Jian? Yun Jian, on the other hand, actually knew how to use these terrifying weapons. Holding back the urge to faint, Marcia held Lu Yan's arm to hold hers so that she did not pass out from the shock of Yun Jian's words. Lu Yan was also shocked by Yun Jian's words. Of course, she was not really shocked. Instead, she thought that Yun Jian was stupid. She actually said that she knew those things. If this was not stupid, then what was? As she thought about it, she saw Marcia looking at Yun Jian in disbelief and asking at the same time, "What's the matter? Oh my God! You are just a little girl. Why did you say that you know so many terrifying weapons? You're just spouting nonsense on purpose, aren't you?" Marcia rubbed her forehead as she spoke. She had been queen for so many years, but this was the first time she had heard of such a dangerous thing from a young girl. Of course, Marcia did not believe that Yun Jian knew so many terrifying weapons. After hearing Marcia's words, Yun Jian raised her eyebrows slightly. She smiled coldly and said, "Nonsense. If it is not nonsense, then is it true?" Marcia felt that she could not communicate with Yun Jian. She felt that Yun Jian wanted to show off in front of her. She wanted to show that she was crazy, so she said that. Just when Marcia finished her sentence, she saw that Yun Jian, who was standing in front of her, suddenly flipped her hand and a butterfly knife appeared out of thin air. The butterfly knife swayed left and right and flashed past Marcia. It was so fast that Marcia did not even have time to react. By the time Marcia came to her senses, a few strands of her long hair had already been shaved off by Yun Jian with the butterfly knife. The speed of the blade was unparalleled. This change made Marcia's face turn pale. Lu Yan, Richard, and the group of servants around them were also shocked. When everyone looked up at Yunjian, they saw Yunjian with a cold smile and said coldly. Chapter 15:24. Yunjian had cut off Marcia's long hair with the butterfly knife. She was so fast that no one could react in time. In addition to what Yunjian said later and the butterfly knife she held in her hand, it was hard to believe. Marcia was really frightened, even though she did not believe Yunjian's words. You are looking down on the royal power. Put down the knife. Otherwise, the soldiers of Country H will charge you with murdering the queen and execute you. Marcia was really scared, but the queen's prestige that came from her bones made her unwilling to lower her head. Thus, Marcia shouted at Yunjian. Marcia's backer was the royal family of Country H. Other than that, she had nothing. In Marcia's mind, Yunjian was just an ordinary little girl from Country Z. She did not have the ability to fight against the royal family of Country H. Once the soldiers of Country H took action, how could she, Yunjian, survive? However, she did not know that Yunjian was not afraid at all. After hearing Marcia's words, Yunjian's smile became more obvious. She curled her lips and revealed a strange smile in front of everyone. You can try and see if your Country H soldiers are faster or if I'm faster when I'm cutting your neck. Yunjian said coldly. Marcia trembled when Yunjian looked at her with her cold eyes. She did not know why. She did not believe that Yunjian could do anything to her, but when she met Yunjian's sharp eyes, she actually felt scared. After all, Marcia was the queen of Country Z. She could not afford to lose her face. Thus, after Yunjian finished her words, Marcia wanted to say something forcefully. However, this time, before Marcia could say anything, Richard pressed her shoulder. Mother, this is just a misunderstanding, a misunderstanding. Yunjian likes to joke. In Country Z, she is still underage. She is not sensible, please forgive her. Richard was so scared that his face turned pale. The girl he liked quarreled with his mother. Was there still any hope for him? Marcia was actually scared by Yunjian. After Richard said that, Marcia immediately followed Richard's words and found herself an excuse. When Marcia was about to scold Yunjian with her status as the queen of country, she saw Ce holding Yunjian's hand and pulling Yunjian into her arms. Seeing this, Marcia was even more annoyed with Yunjian. She turned her head and wanted to find Lu Yan, but found that Lu Yan was not beside her. Where is she? Where did Lu Yan go? Sister. I don't know when Duanya is standing on the road. I'm afraid that a car's coming. Sister, can you quickly carry Duanya down? Duanli ran to Yunjian and said hurriedly to Yunjian. Xiao Yunzhu and Duanli did not pay attention to Duanya for a while, and Duanya was standing on the road from the field. They did not know how Duanya got up there. There were a lot of cars on the road. It was very likely that an ignorant child would get into trouble if she stood on the road. No one saw that Lu Yan, who had disappeared for a while when Marcia and Yunjian were talking, had returned silently. When Yunjian heard Duanli's words, her heart skipped a beat. Just as she turned around, she saw Duanya standing in the middle of the road in a daze. Not far away, a large truck was driving towards the middle of the road where Duanya was standing. The truck was very big and the driver's seat was very high. The driver was driving the truck and did not notice Duanya, who was standing in the middle of the road in a dazed and pitiful manner. Oh my God! At this moment, even Queen Marcia was shocked. If the truck ran over Duanya's small body, Duanya would definitely die. She might even be crushed into minced meat. Sister! Duanli saw this scene and screamed in fear. It's over, that child. That child is finished. Even the farmers who were farming nearby covered their eyes and did not dare to see what was going to happen next. Chapter 15:25. The truck driver was sitting high up in the driver's seat, humming a song as he drove. He did not notice that not far from him, poor Duanya was blinking her eyes as she watched his truck drive over. Duanya did not have much experience, so she was not as witty as Duanli. Perhaps it was because she was born in a poor family and was beaten by her alcoholic father every day, so Duanya had developed a quiet and unreasonable personality. Even now, when the truck drove over, she did not know how many times to shout for help. She just blinked her eyes and stared blankly. Due to her young age, Duanya had no concept of death. The surrounding farmers were shouting for the driver of the truck to stop. However, the driver did not notice Duanya's existence at all. He was humming a song with his eyes closed. From the looks of it, the driver should be listening to music. The people standing around all let out terrified cries. It's over. This little girl is definitely done for. It's a truck. The entire truck is going to run over this little girl. Will she still be alive? Queen Marcia was so frightened by the sudden change that she closed her eyes. Her elegant and graceful posture had already turned pale at this moment. Lu Yan was also shocked. After all, the truck running over a little girl was extremely frightening just thinking about this scene. Richard was also so frightened that his face changed greatly. When everyone's expression changed greatly, a small figure suddenly flashed in front of them. The truck was less than 10 meters away from Duanya's position. Most of the people present closed their eyes, anticipating how bloody the next scene would be. Yun Jian ran in that direction as if she was flying. Ce did not move. Based on his understanding of her, she was strong enough to be unharmed. Therefore, Ce grabbed Xiao Yunju and Duan Li's collars and did not let Xiao Yunju and Duan Li run over there and increase Yun Jian's burden. The next moment, Yun Jian's small figure stood in the field of tulips. With a kick of her left leg, she jumped onto the road. Then, without stopping, she ran towards Duanya's position. Her speed was comparable to a speeding sports car. Marcia and the others who were standing on the spot were completely dumbfounded. They felt that the reason why the driver didn't stop was that Duanya was too far away from the road where Duanya was standing. It should be known that it would take at least 30 seconds for a normal person to run from here to Duanya's position. What about Yun Jian? She actually used a mere 6 seconds to rush in front of Duanya and grab Duanya in the next second. At this moment, the truck was already right in front of Yun Jian. The driver suddenly noticed Yun Jian and Duanya, but it was too late for him to turn the steering wheel in fear. Yun Jian. After Lin Wan reacted, her eyes widened. She strode over there. Richard was also frightened, but he did not rush towards Yun Jian. Queen Marcia was also terrified. No one dared to see the bloody scene. However, just when everyone thought that the truck was about to hit Yun Jian and Duanya in the last 3 seconds, Yun Jian and Duanya were about to be hit. Yun Jian, who was about to be hit, grabbed Duanya with one hand. At the moment when the truck was about to hit them, she stomped hard on the ground and leaped up. Seeing this scene from afar, everyone thought that Yun Jian was crazy. Then, in the next breath, Yun Jian leaped 2 meters high. She landed on the glass of the truck, stepped on a dent in the truck, and jumped again with the help of gravity. In the second jump, Yun Jian jumped more than 4 meters high. The truck was at most 3.8 meters high, so Yun Jian easily jumped onto the roof of the truck. Without hesitation, she ran 2 steps from the roof of the truck, grabbed Duanya, and jumped down from the roof of the back of the truck, easily avoiding the disaster that almost happened. She jumped from the front of the truck to the roof of the truck, and then jumped down from the back of the truck. Yun Jian directly jumped over a truck. And the whole process only took 5 seconds. Marcia, Richard, Lu Yan, and the others who were standing far away suddenly saw this scene. They were so scared that their faces turned pale. Yun Jian could actually take people and avoid the collision of the truck at such a high speed. Chapter 1526. Oh my God! Who is this little girl? Is she Superman? She jumped over the roof of the truck. Isn't this something that only Supermen in fantasy can do? Oh my God! She is so awesome. She was simply a superwoman. This foreign girl is so awesome. The farmers who were sowing and combing the tulips in their fields were discussing Yun Jian's actions in Country H's native language. Queen Marcia, who was standing in the distance, kept changing her expression. As the queen of the kingdom, Marcia had always maintained her calm and graceful demeanor as a queen. What Yun Jian did just now, however, took Marcia by surprise. When Yun Jian leaped over the roof of the truck and landed steadily to avoid the dangerous car accident with Duanya, Marcia was stunned. Marcia's eyes widened. She looked as if she had encountered something terrifying. This was the first time that Marcia lost her composure in front of others. Oh my God! Yun Jian, she... Richard also stared at Yun Jian with fear. He was really frightened by Yun Jian's skills, so he stammered and could not react for a long time. Lu Yan's face also darkened when she saw that Yun Jian had saved Duanya and Yun Jian, and that Duanya and Yun Jian were unharmed. No one saw that Lu Yan clenched her fists tightly. Lin Wan, who was running towards Yun Jian, stopped when she saw this scene. Yao Lily observed the reactions of the people around her. She wasn't too surprised. Instead, she tilted her head slightly and patted Richard's shoulder. She said to Richard, "Don't worry. Hey, SS is much more powerful than this. Just a little thing and you are all so scared, haha." As soon as Yao Lily finished her words, Richard suddenly looked up at Yao Lily. No matter how powerful she is just a little girl. How powerful can she be? Lu Yan was not convinced. Besides, Yao Lily was not on good terms with her, so Lu Yan sneered at Yao Lily first. How could Yun Jian be so powerful? No matter how powerful she was just a girl. How powerful could a girl be? Lu Yan did not believe what Yao Lily said about Yun Jian wiping out a small organization. Yao Lily was so exasperated by Lu Yan's words that she wanted to reveal Yun Jian's identity and scare the latter. Yao Lily knew that Yun Jian's identity was related to the senior members of an Hun organization. However, Yao Lily controlled herself. Yao Lily knew that Yun Jian's identity should not be exposed. You don't believe me? Just you wait. Yao Lily could not help but argue with Lu Yan again. Then, she stood aside and did not want to talk to Lu Yan anymore. Yao Lily really could not like a woman like Lu Yan. At this moment, everyone saw Yun Jian carrying Duanya slowly walking back from the other side of the road. After the initial shock, Marcia was a queen after all. Naturally, she had good leadership skills. Seeing that Yun Jian had returned, Marcia reverted back to her calm and graceful queen-like demeanor. Seeing Yun Jian carrying Duanya back, Marcia could not help but scold her. You see, people are not only rude when eating, even your children are not obedient. They run around everywhere. After that, Marcia turned to face Yun Jian with her back and extended her hand to Lu Yan, telling her, Lu Yan, what do you think? Yan Yan, hold my hand. I am tired. Let's go back to the palace. Marcia had just finished her sentence and reached out her hand to Lu Yan. Lu Yan saw this and did not respond. Suddenly, a fierce kick landed on Lu Yan's abdomen, knocking Lu Yan down on the spot in the tulip field. Queen Marcia only saw a shadow in front of her. When she came back to her senses, she saw that Yun Jian had already kicked Duanya to the ground and the shadow flashed in front of Lu Yan. Chapter 1527. Marcia liked Lu Yan very much. How much did she like Lu Yan? Just now, Marcia wanted Lu Yan to help her back to the palace. Who was Marcia? She was the queen of H country. H country was not a backward country. As the queen of H country, not everyone was qualified to serve her. Marcia really wanted Lu Yan to be the future queen of H country. She wanted Lu Yan to be the lover of her son, Richard. Although Lu Yan was an actress, Marcia's own son, Richard, was also an actress. In the eyes of H country, being an actress was not an unspeakable occupation. Z country might have regarded actors and singers as improper occupations in the past. A long time ago, only those who looked slightly better but had a lower standard of living would choose to be an actress. H country changed their views earlier than Z country in this aspect. Therefore, Marcia did not mind if an actress became the queen of H country. When Marcia chose her son's future wife, she never considered whether the woman was clean or not. Instead, she considered whether the woman would benefit her son's future and development. Lu Yan had a bright future now. Her international status was almost the same as Richard's. The only difference was that one was a movie queen and the other was a movie king. One was a man and the other was a woman. Therefore, Marcia liked Lu Yan because of Lu Yan's background and support. Therefore, when Marcia reached out to Lu Yan to help her back to the palace, Yun Jian suddenly kicked Lu Yan into the tulip field. Then, she leaned over and put the shiny butterfly knife on Lu Yan's neck. Marcia was completely stunned. The people around did not understand why Yun Jian suddenly kicked Lu Yan into the tulip field. Marcia was even more confused. Of course, as the queen of a country, Marcia naturally could not reach out to help Lu Yan who was kicked into the tulip field. Marcia just looked at Yun Jian from the corner of her eyes. Her eyebrows were almost knitted into a line. She suppressed her anger and told Yun Jian that she could not be angry because she was the queen of a country. She calmed herself down and said to Yun Jian, "What are you doing? What plan? Let go of Yan Yan. Yan Yan is an honored guest of country H. Don't tell me that you Z people like to fight for no reason." After hearing Yun Jian's cruel words, Marcia did not take Yun Jian's words seriously. Even when Yun Jian saved Duanya from the truck and did such a terrifying thing, Marcia did not take Yun Jian's words seriously. Murder. A little girl like her dared to kill someone. Was he delusional? Marcia was used to exerting her authority as the queen, so when she spoke to Yun Jian, she sounded like she was giving orders. That's right. Even the queen said so. Why did you hit me for no reason? Hurry up and put the knife away. When Lu Yan saw that Marcia was backing her up, she quickly spoke to Yun Jian. Although she was afraid that Yun Jian would place the butterfly knife on her neck, for the sake of her pride, Lu Yan refused to give in. Thanks to you, my sister was able to stand on the road just now. Do you really think that I don't dare to kill you? Yun Jian sneered. Just when Marcia, Lu Yan, Richard, and the rest thought that Yun Jian would not really do anything to Lu Yan, the butterfly knife in Yun Jian's hand was pushed a little harder towards Lu Yan's neck. Lu Yan was frightened by the sudden sharp pain and screamed. Blood gushed out and Marcia and the rest's faces turned pale instantly. What? Yun Jian's sister was able to stand on the road because of Lu Yan. This was not the point. Although Marcia was frightened by Yun Jian, she remained calm. When she saw that Yun Jian was pushing the butterfly knife in Yun Jian's hand again, she raised her voice to Yun Jian. How dare you kill her in front of me? I even dare to kill you. Why wouldn't I dare to kill her? Under Marcia's disbelieving gaze, Yunjian was still aggressive. Chapter 1528. Please. I beg you. Ah, please don't kill me. I was wrong, I was wrong. Yunjian pushed the butterfly knife in her hand further and Lu Yan's neck started to bleed. Perhaps Lu Yan was frightened, or perhaps it was because of the intense pain. Lu Yan immediately screamed and begged for mercy with all her strength. The neck was a fatal spot and it was also the most difficult part to recover from. If she did not control her strength well enough, she could kill Lu Yan right away by pushing the knife against her neck like she was doing. Yunjian controlled her strength well. She pushed the butterfly knife into Lu Yan's neck and Lu Yan would not die on the spot. Of course, if she was not treated, Lu Yan would die. However, Yunjian controlled the butterfly knife and pushed it into Lu Yan's neck. Lu Yan would not die for a while. Queen Marcia did not expect that Yunjian would dare to do it. Marcia, who had been pretending to be calm, could not help but stagger. She was obviously scared by Yunjian. Then Marcia could not even say a word. Perhaps it was because Marcia had taken Yunjian's, "I even dare to kill you, why would I not dare to kill her?" Seriously, she did not utter another word as she stood on the side. Yunjian then turned her eyes to Lu Yan. Yun. Richard wanted to say something but stopped when he saw Yunjian's cold eyes. Say it. Why did you set my sister up? Yunjian pushed the butterfly knife deeper into Lu Yan's neck every time she said a word. Although there were many bodyguards and servants around her, Marcia did not dare to say anything. Marcia, as the queen of H country, had a strong aura. However, compared to Yunjian, she was far behind. Even the people around felt that Yunjian was being ridiculous. Did Lu Yan set Duanya up? Was it Lu Yan who made Duanya stand on the road? Even if the people around didn't believe that Lu Yan was behind Duanya's incident, they had to hold their breath and look at Yunjian. Just when Marcia and everyone else thought that Lu Yan was wrongly accused, in order to save her own life, Lu Yan did not care about anything else. She immediately spilled out everything that had happened to her. I was wrong, I was wrong. Let me go. I'm just, jealous. I'm jealous that you're able to obtain Prince Desmond's love. I didn't mean it. I was wrong. Don't kill me. As long as you don't, Don't kill me. Whatever Prince does, I'll give it all to you. I won't pretend to be a lady in front of the queen anymore. As long as you let me go. Lu Yan was so scared that she started to talk nonsense. At this moment, Lu Yan could not think of anything else. Her mind was only filled with fear. What? Queen Marcia was shocked when she heard Lu Yan's words. So what Lu Yan did just now was all an act. Queen, as Richard's friend, I have to say that Lu Yan's current achievements were all due to her subterfuge. Yao Lily also said to Marcia. Yao Lily would not say anything more. He had already said what he wanted to say. What happened next would depend on Marcia's own opinion. Sure enough, as soon as Yao Lily finished his words, Marcia's face turned even uglier. Yunjian did not kill Lu Yan. In the end, Lu Yan was sent away by the paramedics. If it was in her previous life, Yunjian would definitely slit Lu Yan's throat. However, she did not do so now. That was because she had found a better way to punish her. If a person died, everything would be over. What else could be more painful than living a life worse than death? If a person died, there would be nothing left. Since Lu Yan dared to lay her hands on Duanya, Yunjian would definitely ruin her reputation and make her live a life worse than death. She would not die a quick death like this. The deep scar on Lu Yan's neck was destined to leave a scar. It also meant that her glorious career in the entertainment industry would not last long. How dare someone lay their hands on Yunjian's people? Chapter 1529. Lu Yan's matter came to an end. Lu Yan, who was sent to the hospital, was not well liked, so no one was willing to accompany her. At first, Queen Marcia had a good impression of Lu Yan, but now it was all gone. Not to mention promoting Lu Yan to be the future queen of H country, Marcia was not even willing to let Lu Yan enter the palace. Marcia was a very realistic person. She could like someone in an instant, but she could also hate someone in an instant. The like here had nothing to do with love. As for Yunjian, Marcia did not say anything and left on her own. In the evening of the same day, Yunjian took Xiao Yunju, the 3 children, and Ce to play in the tulip field until late at night. Lin Wan, Yao Lily, and Richard also followed Yunjian and the others to walk in the tulip field. Rather than following Yunjian and the others, it was better to follow Xiao Yunju and the other 2 children. Xiao Yunju and the other 2 children were very noisy. They jumped around in the tulip field and had a lot of fun. Yunjian kept following them because she was worried that they would run to places where they should not run and fall. Ce put his hands in his trouser pockets and followed wherever Yunjian went. Ce's handsome face, which usually did not show any smile all year round, now had a doting smile as if he had eaten honey. If one looked carefully, they would find that Ce was looking at Yunjian, who was chasing Xiao Yunju and the other 2 children. Even Lin Wan, Yao Lily, and Richard, who were following behind, could feel his doting smile. Seeing this, Richard clenched his fist again and his pupils shrank. It was not until Xiao Yunju and the other 2 children were lying on the side of a tulip field, panting and resting, that Yunjian stopped. The others who had been following behind also came up. Lin Wan and Yao Lily walked up to Yunjian. Lin Wan looked at Ce and then at Yunjian and said to Yunjian, "Yunjian, Sister Lily and I are going to the market near H country. We won't disturb your family anymore. Hey!" After Lin Wan described Yunjian, Ce, and Xiao Yunju as a family, she did not wait for Yunjian to react. She quickly turned around and grabbed Yao Lily, and the 2 of them flew away. Not knowing when, from a commoner who looked at the superstar, Yao Lily, with Yao Lily, Sister Lily. By the time Yunjian realized what Lin Wan meant by family, Lin Wan and Yao Lily had already run far away. Then Yunjian's face turned slightly red. After Lin Wan and Yao Lily left, there was only one outsider, Richard. But Richard had no intention of leaving at all. When Lin Wan said that Yunjian, Ce, and Xiao Yunju were a family, Richard almost went berserk. He felt that he could not control himself. He liked Yunjian. Whether she was married or not, he wanted her. As the Prince of H country, Richard could have anything he wanted. This was the first time that he could not get something. So he was very persistent. When he thought of this, Richard felt that he had to start with the most basic conversation with Yunjian. Just as Richard turned around to talk to Yunjian, he saw Ce standing in front of Yunjian. He held Yunjian's head, bent his lean back slightly, and kissed Yunjian's rosy lips. Seeing this scene, Richard almost rushed over. But that was not all. Ce held Yunjian's head with one hand and hugged Yunjian's waist with the other. He pressed Yunjian down on the tulip field. Chapter 1530. Ce pressed Yunjian down on a patch of tulips. The patch of tulips that had fallen down seemed to have formed a natural bed for Ce and Yunjian. Other than the patch of tulips that Ce was pressing down on Yunjian, the other tulips on the field were still standing. The tulips weren't short. If someone were standing far away, they wouldn't be able to see the scene of Ce pressing down on Yunjian. However, Richard was standing less than 5 meters away from Yunjian and Ce. Richard could clearly see that Ce was kissing Yunjian's lips and pushing Yunjian down on the tulips. The two of them were in close contact, as if the clouds were a house and the earth was a bed. This scene made Richard want to die. Richard clenched his fists tightly and was so angry that his face was about to turn green. But what was worse was that Ce's hand, which was wrapped around Yunjian's waist, slid from Yunjian's back to her front. His large, well-defined hand even grabbed onto Yunjian's ample bosom through her thin clothes. This scene made Richard so angry that he almost vomited blood. You guys. Stand up. Richard couldn't hold back and took a big step forward. His handsome face revealed a fierce expression. Oh, you haven't left yet. Ce's handsome face, which angered both men and gods, curved his lips slightly. After hearing Richard's words, he didn't pull Yunjian up. Instead, he rubbed Yunjian's ample bosom even harder. Yunjian was kissed by Ce and had her sensitive area grabbed. Her rosy face couldn't hide her embarrassment and she couldn't help but let out a soft moan. At this moment, Richard was about to explode from anger. Get up. Get up. Richard took another big step forward and shouted. His upbringing as a prince told him that he could not go up and pull Ce off Yunjian directly. It was impolite. Richard could only stand beside Yunjian and Ce and shout at them. Xiao Yunju and the other two were playing hide and seek in the distance, so they didn't see this scene. The three children were having a lot of fun. Ce kissed Yunjian in front of Richard for more than 10 minutes before he raised his head and cast a sidelong glance at Richard. Ce's handsome face made Richard feel inferior. But what could he do? He was the prince of country age and held a high position. Many women were waiting to climb into his bed. Ce was just a little more handsome than him. Moreover, he was also a handsome man. He was even an international superstar and an award-winning actor. Hurry up and get up, you two. Richard clenched his fists and said to Ce in a muffled voice. If it wasn't for his manners as a prince of country age, Richard would have rushed forward. When Ce heard Richard's words, his handsome face curved into a smile. I'm flirting with my wife. If you say get up, we'll get up, okay? At this moment, Ce looked down at Yunjian. He shamelessly grabbed Yunjian's ample bosom in front of Richard. There are tulips planted where you're lying. You're destroying the environment. So get up now. Otherwise, I'll punish you for destroying the environment according to Country H's laws. Richard dared not expose his thoughts directly, so he could only come up with an excuse. After Richard said that, Ce stood up from Yunjian and reached out to help Yunjian up. Xiao Jian, slow down. I'll help you up. Seeing that Ce was probably frightened by what he said, Richard breathed a sigh of relief. It looked like he still had a chance to snatch Yunjian away from Ce. Just as Richard thought about it, Ce spoke again. Ce was helping Yunjian up slowly from the tulips and said something that made Richard puke blood. Chapter 1531. Ce's ability to lie through his teeth wasn't just for show. He slowly helped Yunjian up without blushing or skipping a beat, as though he was afraid that Yunjian would fall. It was as though Yunjian was really pregnant. After helping Yunjian up, Ce pulled Yunjian's little hand and pulled Yunjian into his embrace. Then, Ce placed his slender palm on Yunjian's abdomen in front of Richard and gently stroked it twice, as though there really was an unborn baby inside. Richard stretched out his trembling hand and pointed at Ce. This time, he was so angry that he was about to vomit blood. However, before Richard could vomit blood, Ce grabbed Yunjian's little hand and walked around Richard. He then called for Xiao Yunju and the other two to leave. Yunjian's face was slightly red. She pursed her lips and thought to herself that Siyi's skin was getting thicker and thicker. She was really afraid that one day, his lies would reach a whole new level. Seeing Siyi leave with Yunjian's little hand, Richard, who was standing in the distance, clutched his chest. Richard felt as though blood was about to spurt out of his chest from anger. However, this wasn't the end. Xiao Yunju and the other two circled around Siyi and Yunjian. Perhaps because Xiao Yunju had overheard Siyi's words, Xiao Yunju was now looking at Siyi and Yunjian with eyes full of anticipation. From afar, Richard could still hear Xiao Yunju asking Siyi in a loud voice, "Big brother Siyi, when will big sister give birth to a little Siyi for us to play with?" Yay yay yay. A little Siyi will definitely be very good looking. Xiao Yunju's words were like a sharp sword that almost pierced Richard's heart. Richard clutched his chest. This time, he really couldn't take the blow anymore. He knelt on one foot in the tulip field and almost vomited blood. But even so, it didn't change Richard's desire for Yunjian. Men were all cheap. This sentence wasn't wrong at all. The more he couldn't have something, the more Richard wanted it. The more he couldn't have Yunjian, the more he wanted her. He wouldn't give up until he had Yunjian. In the evening, after playing in the tulip field for more than an hour, Xiao Yunju and the other two were tired and went to bed early. They slept in the palace at night. After arranging a room for Xiao Yunju and the other two, Yunjian and Siyi returned to their own bedroom. Richard had specially arranged for 2 bedrooms for the two of them, but Siyi didn't care. He directly followed Yunjian into her bedroom. When Richard heard this news, he was so angry that he almost spat out his dinner. Scram! Richard had maintained the image of a prince for so many years, but this time, it finally collapsed. He grabbed a teacup and directly threw it at the servant who reported to him that Yunjian and Siyi were sleeping in the same room. What made her so angry? At this moment, Queen Marcia walked in from outside Richard's room. She waved her hand and signaled the servant to leave the room. Then, she stood in front of Richard. "Mother, Richard wanted to say something, but he was interrupted by Marcia. Don't say it. Mother knows," Marcia said. Speaking of this, Marcia was reminded of Yunjian's terrified expression back then. She also remembered how Yunjian helped her see through Lu Yan's true colors. Marcia turned her head and asked Richard, her mother wants to ask you something. Do you have to have her?" "Yes." "Mother, don't tell me you," Richard said in surprise. Before Richard could finish his words, Marcia waved her hand. Chapter 1532. No one else heard the conversation between Marcia and Richard except for them. The next day. The next morning, Yunjian wanted to get up at around 5 or 6 o'clock. Yunjian wanted to go for her morning exercise, but Siyi stopped her. Yunjian was puzzled. She did not understand why Siyi stopped her from going for her morning exercise. However, after Siyi finished his next sentence, Yunjian decided to give up on the idea of going for her morning exercise. "You want to go for your morning exercise? Satisfy me and I'll let you go." As Siyi spoke, he wrapped his long arm around Yunjian's waist. Yunjian's breasts were very voluptuous. When Siyi wrapped his arm around Yunjian's waist, he could feel the softness of her large lower body. This made him even more unwilling to let go. After hearing Siyi's words, Yunjian did not dare to move anymore. Especially after hearing what Siyi said in the tulip field, Yunjian was really afraid that Siyi would do something to her. It was not that she did not like Siyi to do something to her. But, she was afraid. That's right, Yun Jian was not afraid of getting hurt, but when it came to this kind of thing, especially when it came to Ce, who she liked, she was really shy and afraid. Cough cough. Good girl. Ce felt Yun Jian's slight tremble. He curved his handsome face and revealed a devilish and charming smile behind Yun Jian's back. He reached out and stroked Yun Jian's head. Something that belonged to him, he would take it for himself one day, completely and completely. And that day wasn't far from now. He was already 20 years old, it was time to have an heir. If Yun Jian heard Ce's inner thoughts, Yun Jian would probably facepalm again. At around 8:00 in the morning, Yun Jian and Ce were ready to get up. When Yun Jian and Ce changed their clothes and went to the palace hall, they saw Xiao Yunju and the other two playing happily with Suli. Suli was Marcia's daughter and also Richard's sister. Suli had a good relationship with Yao Lily before, but for some reason, she was playing happily with Xiao Yunju and the other two. Moreover, she was a princess of country. Although she was a princess, she did not have the airs of a princess. She was forced to learn Chinese from a young age, so she was able to communicate normally with Xiao Yunju and the other two. Even Yao Lily and Lin Wan felt happy when they saw this scene. These four children have been playing together since early in the morning. Suli is a very nice child. Previously, Suli would smile whenever she saw me. Now that she's playing with the other three children, she's too lazy to talk to me. Yao Lily stood beside Yun Jian and said to Yun Jian. At this point, Yao Lily added sourly, as if he was angry that Suli had Xiao Yunju and the other two friends and was ignoring him, an old friend. Yun Jian knew that Yao Lily was trying to say something. Although Suli was Marcia's child, her personality was completely different from Marcia's. Yao Lily was trying to say that Xiao Yunju and the other two would be fine if they played with Suli. Yun Jian nodded. Sister. Sister. Brother Ce. Suli just said that there is a very fun theme park nearby. It is different from the ones we used to play in. Can we go there today? Duanli ran over and held Yun Jian's hand. She shook it gently and acted like a spoiled child. Xiao Yunju also ran over and held Ce's hand. Just as he held Ce's hand, Xiao Yunju suddenly realized that brother Ce always listens to his sister. Therefore, Xiao Yunju threw away Ce's hand and ran over to Yun Jian with anticipation. Sister, let's go and play now, okay? Xiao Yunju also looked at Yun Jian with anticipation. Seeing Xiao Yunju, Duanli, and Duanya's expectant faces, how could Yun Jian refuse? Chapter 1533. Yay, yay. That's great. Let's go play. Let's go to the amusement park. Xiao Yunju and the other two clapped excitedly and jumped up and down. Suli was older than Xiao Yunju and Duanli, so she didn't do the childish thing of clapping and cheering when she heard something that made her happy. Suli was quite excited when she saw Xiao Yunju and the other two being so excited. They could go to the amusement park again. However, in order to make herself look more mature, Suli stood on the side and grinned at Xiao Yunju and the other three. You guys are so childish. You should learn to be more mature like me. Finally, with Xiao Yunju and the other two skipping forward, the group arrived at the amusement park. Richard might have gotten his mother's approval, but he didn't want to see Ce and Yun Jian being intimate, so he didn't go with them to the amusement park. Richard didn't go with them, which was quite surprising, but no one noticed it. Yao Lily and Lin Wan went with them, but before they went, they secretly agreed to stay away from Yun Jian and Ce when necessary. They couldn't ruin their family's beautiful fun. Only Yun Jian, Ce, Xiao Yunju, Suli, Yao Lily, and Lin Wan went. Su Li was the princess of country H, so when the group went out, Su Li called her own car to send Yunjian and the others, including herself, to the amusement park nearby. The amusement park located near Country H's palace was translated into Country Z's Chinese, Pleasure Island Amusement Park. Of course, Pleasure Island Amusement Park was only translated into Country Z's Chinese name. It was called differently in Country H's language. At this moment, Su Li's private car had already brought Su Li, Yunjian, and the others to the entrance of the amusement park. Pleasure Island Amusement Park was a fairy tale-themed amusement park. Therefore, most of the people who came to Pleasure Island Amusement Park were from rich families all over the world. Usually, parents would bring their children here to play. Of course, this was H country. In the Pleasure Island Amusement Park, the majority of people were from H country. The Pleasure Island Amusement Park also had a great influence in the world. Therefore, there were many people from all over the world who came here to travel and play. As soon as they bought the tickets and walked into the Pleasure Island Amusement Park, Yunjian and the others saw many other tourists from Z country having fun. Sister. Let's take a pirate ship. A merry-go-round. Anne. Xiao Yunju rattled off a bunch of games in one breath. Looking at Xiao Yunju's expectant look, Yunjian pursed her lips slightly. You guys go ahead. I'll wait for you outside. Ce wasn't interested in these kinds of amusement park games. However, as long as he looked at Yunjian, even if it was a game that he had no interest in, he could still enjoy it. Don't. Big brother Ce, come too. Big brother Ce, come too. Xiao Yunju pulled on Ce's hand and swayed. Sister big brother Ce doesn't want to go. Xiao Yunju saw that Ce didn't compromise, so he turned his big round eyes to Yunjian and said pitifully. Let's play together. Yunjian's red lips curved slightly. She looked sideways at Ce and said. Okay. Almost as soon as Yunjian said that, Ce agreed. The speed of his reply couldn't be faster. Xiao Yunju was satisfied and jumped around happily with Duanli and Duanya. Su Li added on from the side. Her words were directed at Xiao Yunju and the others. Your brother and sister are so loving. They treat you so well. They even accompany you to the amusement park to play. When she said this, a trace of envy flashed across Su Li's eyes, along with an imperceptible sense of depression and loneliness. Yeah. Big brother Ce and sister treat us so well. Xiao Yunju responded at this time. As they spoke, the group walked towards the amusement park. Chapter 1534. There were many dangerous games in the amusement park that children were not allowed to play. The game equipment in the amusement park didn't depend on the age of the child, but the height of the child. Generally, thrilling games like the roller coaster were not allowed to participate in those who were under 1.4 meters tall. This was a matter of life and death, so naturally, they couldn't be careless. In front of every ride, there was a height measuring scale placed to stop children who were not tall enough to avoid accidents. For example, Xiao Yunju, Duanli, and Duanya's age, there weren't many games that they could play in the amusement park, and thrilling games were even more forbidden. Therefore, Yunjian's first stop was to bring Xiao Yunju and the other two to the merry-go-round. There were many people lining up to play the merry-go-round, especially since the Happy Island Amusement Park was a very popular large-scale amusement park. Rides like the merry-go-round were accessible to children of any age. In the amusement park, most of the people who came to play were adults who accompanied their children. Therefore, for a ride like the merry-go-round, which was accessible to children of any age, there were naturally many people lining up to play. There was a long line here. Sister, there are so many people. Xiao Yunju pouted, pulled Yunjian's clothes and said, "N." Yunjian nodded lightly. The waiting area was full of people. It was not difficult to see that the amusement park's merry-go-round was quite popular. Yunjian and the others' luck was not particularly good. When they entered the amusement park, the first game they played was about half an hour in line before it was their turn. Seeing that it was their turn to play in the next round, Xiao Yunju waited for a long time. He stretched out his hand to move his limbs. There were too many people standing in line here. There were people standing in front and behind. Xiao Yunju stretched out his hand to move his limbs. Just as he stretched out his hand, he accidentally hit a boy who was about the same age as Xiao Yunju standing in front of him. Rather than hitting, it was more like accidentally touching the boy's cheek with his hand. "What are you doing?" The boy standing in front of him was from Z country. It seemed that he was impatient from waiting. Now that Xiao Yunju had accidentally touched his cheek, he was furious on the spot and turned his head to look at Xiao Yunju fiercely. There was a man and a woman beside the boy. It wasn't hard to tell that the man and woman standing beside the boy were his parents. The boy's father was an average-looking man with a belly bigger than a beer. Every time he breathed, one could clearly see his fat belly tremble. The boy's father should be in his 40s. The boy's mother was very young. She was only in her mid-20s. If one didn't take a closer look at the similarities between the boy and the woman, it would be hard to tell that the woman was only 25 or 26 years old, but she was already the mother of an 8-year-old boy. It was even harder to tell that this woman and this man in his 40s were husband and wife. Xiao Yunju was shocked by the boy's roar. Xiao Yunju realized that he had accidentally touched the boy's cheek. It was his fault. The teacher said that he had to apologize if he accidentally touched the boy. "I'm sorry, I accidentally touched you." Xiao Yunju hurriedly apologized to the boy. "What's the use of apologizing? Whose child are you? How dare you hurt my foo? Didn't your mother teach you how to behave? Really, I don't even know if this wild child has any bacteria on his hands. It's so dirty." Before the boy could speak, the boy's mother, who was in her mid-20s, pushed Xiao Yunju away. She squatted down beside the boy and scolded him while wiping his face. While wiping the boy's face, the woman scolded, "Children nowadays only know how to apologize. Do they think that they are very polite?" Chapter 1535. As the woman scolded, she also called her son, which was the boy's nickname. The boy's nickname was Fu, and his name was Zhang Laifu. It was a very tacky name, but the woman said it smoothly. The woman's name was Fan Xayan, and she was 25 years old. Fan Xayan was Zhang Laifu's biological mother. She was quite good-looking, and there was nothing to say about her looks. When she was in high school, she was the school belle. Because Fan Xayan was not good at her studies and was a gangster, after she had a few boyfriends, she was taken in by Zhang Laifu's father, who was a middle-aged man in his 40s. The lump of fat on his stomach was so big that it was about to fall off. At that time, Zhang Laifu's father, the man named Zhang Shan, was already married. Fan Xayan became Zhang Shan's mistress when she was 16 years old. Zhang Shan was the kind of man who came from the countryside to the big city and gradually developed his business. When Fan Xayan was 16 years old, he already had a business. After Fan Xayan seduced Zhang Shan, she got pregnant in less than a year and secretly gave birth to the child. After Zhang Shan became rich, he divorced his first wife and married Fan Xayan. Fan Xayan successfully became the mistress. In addition, when Fan Xayan walked out, she did not feel that she was a mistress at all, so she felt inferior. On the contrary, she felt that she was great and powerful, better than her peers. Classmates of her age were still starting their own businesses after marrying their husbands. But what about her? She married her husband. Although she was a little old and was already in her 40s, she not only had a car and a house, but she also had a business. When she was free, she could even take her and the child out to play. Fan Axeon was proud of this. She even advised her best friend more than once that as a woman, she should find a man who was more than 10 years older than her, who had a car, a house, and a business. Who cared if he had a wife or not? She would date him first. Because in the eyes of her friends, Fan Axeon felt that her life was the most fulfilling. After being a rich madam for so many years, Fan Axeon had a habit of looking down on others. Therefore, when Xiao Yunju accidentally touched Zhang Laifu's face with his hand, Fan Axeon felt that her son's face had been dirted by something dirty, and she started to shout. Fan Axeon was still half squatting on the ground, scolding as she wiped her son's face. Halfway through, a beautiful hand grabbed Fan Axeon's wrist and forcefully pulled her up from the ground. Fan Axeon was suddenly grabbed and did not react for a moment. By the time Fan Axeon realized what was going on, she was already looking at Yun Jian's seemingly emotionless and icy face. My brother accidentally bumped into your son. It's my brother's fault. My brother has already apologized. You pushed my brother just now, so you have to apologize too. Yun Jian grabbed Fan Axeon's wrist and said coldly. Xiao Yunju had accidentally slapped her face and apologized. Yun Jian naturally wouldn't say anything. After all, Xiao Yunju had really touched her cheek. But just now, Fan Axeon pushed Xiao Yunju away. If Yun Jian hadn't stood behind Xiao Yunju and supported Xiao Yunju's little head would have hit the railing next to him. Oh my! Why should we apologize? What's wrong with me pushing him? He couldn't reject it, could he? Ha! Fan Axeon's wrist was grabbed by Yun Jian. After struggling twice to no avail, she glanced at Yun Jian coldly, without any remorse for doing something wrong. Apologize. Yun Jian didn't say anything else. She just repeated these two words, and then the strength of her hand increased slightly. Ah! It hurts. Let go of me. Fan Axeon's wrist was grabbed by Yun Jian and the bones creaked. She was frightened, so she quickly shouted. Let go of my wife's hand. Seeing this, Zhang Shan stood behind Fan Axeon and shouted at Yun Jian. Seeing that Yun Jian seemed to be a martial artist and was quite powerful, Zhang Shan didn't dare to rush up. Apologize. Yun Jian still repeated these two words. At the same time, Fan Axeon's wrist made a cracking sound. I was wrong, I was wrong. I'm sorry, I was wrong. Fan Axeon was frightened by the severe pain and quickly begged for mercy. This wasn't a big deal, and Yun Jian didn't want to make a big deal out of it, so Yun Jian's eyes darkened and she immediately let go. Mom! Zhang Laifu on the other side grabbed Fan Axeon, then raised his eyes and glared at Xiao Yunju and Yun Jian. Chapter 1536. At this moment, the entrance to the merry-go-round opened. After waiting for about half an hour, it was finally Yun Jian and the others' turn. Yao Lily and Lin Wan had gone to play other exciting games, so now only Yun Jian and Ce were with the four children. Xiao Yunju, Duanli, Duanya, and Su Li. As soon as the entrance to the merry-go-round opened, the unhappiness from before was thrown to the back of their minds. Fan Axeon shook her wrist that was grabbed by Yun Jian. She was surprised. Why wasn't her hand hurt? And she didn't feel any pain at all. There wasn't even a trace of being pinched. Because the entrance to the merry-go-round was already open, Fan Axian didn't feel any pain on her wrist. So she quickly grabbed her son, Zhang Laifu, and called her husband, Zhang Shan, and ran to the entrance of the merry-go-round. No one saw Zhang Laifu fiercely glare at Xiao Yunju. His eyes were full of anger, as if he wanted to kill Xiao Yunju. The merry-go-round was quite fun. At least Xiao Yunju, Duanli, Duanya, and Suli had a lot of fun. After the game ended, Suli stretched her body and said to Xiao Yunju and the others happily, "It's great to be at an amusement park. It's the first time someone accompanied me to an amusement park. Dad has to deal with a lot of government affairs every day. Mom doesn't want to accompany me to the amusement park. In the past, it was only the attendants who accompanied me to the amusement park. Thank you." Su Li's eyes were full of emotion. At the same time, hidden in Su Li's eyes was an undetectable and unfathomable loneliness. "We'll play with you in the future." Xiao Yunju and the others blinked. They looked at Su Li with their innocent eyes and smiled at her. Really? Su Li looked up at Xiao Yunju and the others and asked with a trembling voice. "Of course it's real. Let's go play other games." Xiao Yunju and the others were ready to move. Then, they pulled Su Li to other places. "Let's go play the pirate ship. Sister will play the pirate ship with us." Yay. At this time, Xiao Yunju and Duanli seemed to have found a new goal. They pulled Yunjian and shouted excitedly. The pirate ship was a more exciting game. Although the pirate ship did not sway too much, if you were to sit on the pirate ship, you would feel like your heart was about to be shaken out of your body. Especially when it swayed from side to side more and more violently, it felt like if a person was sitting on a pirate ship without a seatbelt and enhanced safety features, they would be thrown off. In the amusement park, you would find that the more dangerous the game, the more complicated the safety measures. Because the pirate ship was a very exciting game, there was a limit to the height of the players. The island's height. SSS. SSSSS. Xiao Yunju, Duanli, and Su Li wanted to experience the thrill of the pirate ship. Yunjian had to let Duanya stand there and let Ce look after Duanya. Yunjian accompanied Xiao Yunju, Duanli, and Su Li. Because the pirate ship was exciting and the children's height was limited, there weren't many people waiting in line to play the pirate ship. Yunjian and the others waited for 5 minutes before they could go up. "It's you, huh?" Just as Yunjian brought Xiao Yunju, Duanli, and Su Li onto the pirate ship, a groan came from behind. Yunjian turned her head and saw Fan Axian, who had a small conflict with Yunjian, holding her son Zhang Laifu's hand. "Hee, you dare to come here to play the pirate ship? Don't cry later and go home to your mother." Fan Axian's husband, Zhang Shan, was afraid of playing the pirate ship. Therefore, Fan Axian brought her son Zhang Laifu onto the pirate ship. Chapter 1537. Fan Axian obviously said that to Yunjian on purpose. Her original intention was to anger Yunjian. Yunjian's hand just now hurt Fan Axian. Although Fan Axian didn't feel the pain at all after Yunjian let go, Fan Axian was a vengeful person. "Get out of the way. Coward, I'll wait to see you cry later. Ha! Get out of the way," Fan Axian said. She grabbed Zhang Laifu's hand and swaggered past Yunjian to the pirate ship. Yunjian ignored Fan Axian and Fan Axian's son. An ordinary pirate ship could seat 4 or 5 people in a row, but the pirate ship in the amusement park was bigger. It could seat 6 people neatly in a row. Yunjian and the others had a total of 4 people. Yunjian was afraid that Xiao Yunju, Duanli, and Su Li would accidentally fall from the pirate ship, so she didn't let them sit on the side. Yun Jian let Xiao Yunju and the other two sit in the middle, and then she sat on one side of the row. There were 6 people in a row. Yun Jian sat on the leftmost side, then Duanli, then Su Li, and finally Xiao Yunju. Xiao Yunju was braver, so he was the furthest away from Yun Jian. Yun Jian's row could seat 2 people. Mom, I want to sit with them. Humph. I want to see them cry. Zhang Laifu took the seat on the right side of Xiao Yunju and sat down. He looked at Xiao Yunju with a strange look, as if he wanted to kill Xiao Yunju. Fan Xian spoiled her son, so she naturally agreed to Zhang Laifu's words. So Zhang Laifu sat on the right side of Xiao Yunju, and Fan Xian sat on the rightmost side of Yun Jian's row. From left to right, Yun Jian's row was followed by Yun Jian, Duanli, Su Li, Xiao Yunju, Zhang Laifu, and Fan Xian. After the staff fastened everyone's seatbelts and reinforced the safety measures outside, they returned to the control room and the game officially began. It's about to begin. It's about to begin. Xiao Yunju shouted. TSK, what a coward. Fan Xian, who was sitting next to him, sneered. At this moment, the pirate ship game officially began. The pirate ship began to sway slowly. Xiao Yunju, Duanli, and Su Li were not afraid at all. Zhang Laifu's palms were sweating, but for the sake of his face, he forced himself to stay calm. Fan Xian was already screaming from being swayed. Yun Jian just put her hand on the armrest and let the wind blow her hair and clothes. She didn't know what fear was at all. Just as the pirate ship swaying was at its peak and was strong enough to fling someone out, the foolish Zhang Laifu suddenly shouted at Yunju, "Brother Yunju. Go to hell. You just bullied my mother. Go to hell." As he said that, Zhang Laifu grabbed the seatbelt of Xiao Yunju's seat and unfastened the seatbelt on Xiao Yunju's body. Zhang Laifu had already planned to do so. Once the seatbelt was unfastened, the other safety measure was not enough to bind Xiao Yunju because Xiao Yunju was too thin. Especially at this moment, the pirate ship was flying to the highest point and was about to be thrown to the other side. Suddenly hearing Zhang Laifu's voice, the surrounding people looked over. However, at this moment, the pirate ship swayed down. Xiao Yunju flew out of the pirate ship because he didn't have a seatbelt. Oh my god. Something happened. Oh my god. Someone in the distance saw this scene and shouted in shock. He fell from a height of more than 10 meters. This boy will definitely die. At this moment, whether it was the people sitting on the pirate ship, the people standing on the ground waiting for the next batch of people to play the pirate ship, or the people passing by the pirate ship game, they all exclaimed in shock. Intuition told everyone present that Xiao Yunju, the child who was thrown out, was done for. Dead for sure. Dead for sure. However, at this moment, whether it was Fan Xian, Zhang Laifu, and the others sitting on the pirate ship, or everyone standing on the ground, they all saw a horrifying scene. They saw that immediately after Xiao Yunju was thrown out, Yun Jian unfastened her seatbelt with one hand and pounced on the trajectory of Xiao Yunju. What is she doing? Is she courting death? Everyone in the surroundings was boiling with fear. For a moment, everyone was trembling with fear. Chapter 1538. The pirate ship swayed left and right, using the motion of the ship's body in the game to sway to the highest point. Therefore, when the pirate ship swayed to the highest point and Zhang Laifu unbuckled Xiao Yunju's seatbelt, Xiao Yunju was like a wild goose whose wings were suddenly broken. He fell from a height of more than 10 meters. This scene shocked the people around, but it was understandable. After all, Xiao Yunju was thrown from a height of more than 10 meters. If his head hit the ground first, his head would be smashed in half by the impact. It was not impossible for the blood in his brain to spurt out. If his brain was smashed in half, how could a fragile child survive? Yun Jian sat in the seat furthest away from Xiao Yunju. She did not expect Zhang Laifu to be so cruel to Xiao Yunju. How could a child be so vicious? Because Su Li and Duanli were in the middle, Yun Jian, who was sitting next to them, did not notice what Zhang Laifu had done to Xiao Yunju. However, Yun Jian reacted immediately. She did not even have time to think. She unbuckled her seatbelt and pounced toward the place where Xiao Yunju was thrown. Everyone present was scared out of their wits by Yun Jian's actions. The staff was so scared that they quickly exclaimed to each other to turn off the pirate ship's operating switch. Quick, turn off the pirate ship's operating switch. At this time, everyone sitting on the pirate ship, including the people standing on the ground, looked up at the sky. Yun Jian did not even think about it. She unbuckled her seatbelt and jumped out of another strengthened seatbelt with her slender body. She pounced toward Xiao Yunju. In the sky directly in front, Yun Jian quickly stood on the pirate ship. Then, she kicked her legs violently and jumped over Xiao Yunju. Xiao Yunju was thrown out. Yun Jian's kick caught up with Xiao Yunju's speed. She first grabbed Xiao Yunju with one hand, and then the two fell to the ground together with the force. There were many people standing around. There were men and women, young and old, and people from all countries. At this moment, everyone's hearts were tightly clenched. It fell. Just as Yun Jian grabbed Xiao Yunju and the two fell to the ground from a height of more than 10 meters, Yun Jian and Xiao Yunju suddenly landed beside a large railing machine that lifted the pirate ship. Here's the chance. Yun Jian's eyes flashed. In the next moment, she reached out and grabbed the large railing that lifted the pirate ship at a speed that no one could see with their naked eyes. Yun Jian held Xiao Yunju with one hand. She grabbed the large railing and used the large railing to spin 360 degrees around the large railing with Xiao Yunju. Then, she used the large railing to slow down the momentum. Her body was as light as a feather as she landed easily in the last few meters. This extremely complicated move was completed in just 3 seconds by Yun Jian. 3 seconds later, Yun Jian had safely landed with Xiao Yunju. A series of events happened in these 3 seconds. In the eyes of the surrounding people, it was just Yun Jian grabbing Xiao Yunju and using the large railing to slow down the momentum. Then, she jumped and landed smoothly. Falling from the pirate ship, more than 10 meters in the air. Yun Jian saved Xiao Yunju and landed smoothly without any injuries. This scene shocked the surrounding people so much that they could not describe it with words. In the next moment, the surrounding people exclaimed one after another. "Oh my God! This little girl is really amazing. Is this a show of Superman saving the world? Oh my God, am I seeing things? This can't be real." Compared to the people of various countries who suddenly saw Yun Jian's shocking performance on the pirate ship that had been forcefully docked, Fan Xian and Zhang Laifu, who said that Yun Jian would be so scared that she would call for her mother on the pirate ship, were completely shocked. Their faces were pale and bloodless. She was actually so amazing. How was this possible? A person was thrown out of the pirate ship so violently. How could the other person catch up with the person who was thrown out? Not only that, she even saved the other person and landed safely. Chapter 1539. Wow! Superman! Little girl, you're the best. That's amazing. Could it be that the amusement park deliberately arranged that scene? That was simply too amazing. Too amazing. The surrounding people exclaimed in amazement in their own country's language. At this moment, everyone was applauding and cheering for Yunjian's actions. It was obvious that Yunjian's actions had exceeded everyone's understanding of a little girl. She was just a teenage girl. If she hadn't deliberately practiced this kind of performance, how could she have done such a frightening action? In that scene, if Yunjian's performance had been slightly off, she and Xiao Yunju would have been dead without a doubt. Therefore, when they saw this scene, the surrounding people cheered and screamed. Everyone clapped and applauded. Everyone's eyes, without exception, fell on Yunjian's body. Their eyes fell on this legendary girl. The pirate ship had completely stopped, and Yunjian was standing in front of the pirate ship. There were railings all around to prevent the tourists from being accidentally injured while the pirate ship game was running. Just when everyone's eyes were on Yunjian, they saw Ce using his height advantage to step on the railing and easily jump in. Ce's hand was still holding on to Duanya's collar. Poor Duanya's collar was grabbed by Ce and she swayed closer to Yunjian. Ce jumped over the railing and entered the pirate ship game facility. He didn't care about the staff's shouts to stop him from jumping over the railing and directly walked towards Yunjian. Poor Duanya was being held by Ce, but she blinked her eyes and looked pitiful to the onlookers. Although Xiao Yunju was brave, he was still frightened by the dangerous situation just now. When Yunjian saw Ce walking over, she pulled Xiao Yunju towards Ce. "Keep an eye on my brother." Yunjian's eyes flashed with a sharp killing intent as she said this very calmly. It was as natural as eating and drinking. Ce understood Yunjian. He pulled Xiao Yunju over. Everyone looked at Yunjian as if they were looking at their idol. Seeing Yunjian turn around and walk towards the pirate ship, everyone was surprised. Fan Xan, who was sitting on the pirate ship, had already unfastened her and her son Zhang Laifu's seatbelt. Seeing Yunjian walking over, Fan Xan panicked. Fan Xan didn't know what her son had just done. They thought that Yunjian was coming over to unfasten Duanli and Su Li's seatbelts. Seeing Yunjian's calm expression, as if nothing had happened, Fan Xan panicked. Yunjian suddenly glanced over, making Fan Xan speechless. Yunjian raised her hand and unfastened Duanli and Su Li's seatbelts. She then let them get off the pirate ship by themselves. Fan Xan heaved a sigh of relief, thinking that Yunjian was going to follow Duanli and Su Li down the pirate ship. Yunjian suddenly grabbed Zhang Laifu. She didn't even think about it and directly threw Zhang Laifu off the pirate ship that was more than 2 meters high. Seeing this scene, everyone's eyes widened. Fan Xan screamed even more exaggeratedly, "Oh! Fu, Before Fan Xan could finish screaming, Zhang Laifu was thrown off the pirate ship by Yunjian. He hit the ground and cried out in pain. Before Fan Xan could react, Yunjian had already followed up. In the next second, she stepped on Zhang Laifu's abdomen, who was rolling and screaming in pain. Chapter 1540. Why would she lay her hands on an 8-year-old child for no reason? Seeing Yunjian throw Zhang Laifu off the pirate ship, the surrounding people were dumbfounded. Zhang Laifu was a fat boy, and it wasn't hard to tell that his family background was quite good. Otherwise, he wouldn't have eaten so much. Being thrown off the pirate ship by Yunjian, even if Zhang Laifu was fat, his entire body would definitely be in pain from the fall. In fact, Zhang Laifu's feet had landed on the ground. Now that he had been heavily smashed, a clear "kacha" sound could be heard when Zhang Laifu's legs hit the ground. The child's body was thin and weak to begin with, so when Zhang Laifu's legs hit the ground, a clear "kacha" sound could be heard. Zhang Laifu's legs were fractured. At this moment, Yun Jian's foot was ruthlessly stepping on Zhang Laifu's abdomen. No matter how the surrounding people who didn't know the situation looked at it, they felt that Yun Jian had gone overboard. What was wrong with her? How could she be so ruthless to an innocent little boy? Many of the surrounding people were foreigners, so naturally, they couldn't understand Yun Jian's words. As foreigners, they could only look at Yun Jian's actions and guess Yun Jian's actions. Therefore, when Yun Jian stomped Zhang Laifu under her foot, the crowd went into a frenzy again. Oh my God! This little girl is too much. How could she hit a child so recklessly? Hurry up and stop her. Go stop her. The surrounding group of foreigners were stunned. When they realized that Yun Jian was hitting a child, they instantly felt disgusted with Yun Jian. A few of the more righteous foreigners even wanted to step forward to stop Yun Jian. Just as the more righteous foreigners were about to walk over to Yun Jian and try to stop Yun Jian from stepping on Zhang Laifu's abdomen, Ce suddenly pulled out a silver pistol from his trouser pocket and fired 2 shots into the air. His handsome face was extremely cold. What he said made the righteous foreigners, who did not know the truth, shrink back. Ce's thin lips moved slightly, his icy demeanor causing everyone present to retreat with a shriek. Anyone who dares to take a step forward will die. Ce was obviously protecting Yun Jian. Seeing Ce pull out a pistol, the surrounding people were frightened and retreated, screaming and fleeing. Fan Axian took a while to react. She saw her son Zhang Laifu being thrown off the pirate ship by Yun Jian. Zhang Laifu was struggling on the ground. She screamed and rushed over. Ah! 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 Fu! Ah! Go to hell! How dare you do this to my son, go to hell! As Zhang Laifu's father, Zhang Shan wanted to run over with a shriek when he saw his precious son being stepped on by Yun Jian, but he stopped when he saw Ce whipping out a gun. Gun! He have gun. Father's father. Father son son. Father son. How dare you do this to son? Ah! Ah! Fan Axian rushed to Yun Jian's side. She ran to Yun Jian and grabbed Yun Jian's foot. She tried to lift Yun Jian's foot from Zhang Laifu's abdomen. Fan Axian grabbed Yun Jian's foot but found that Yun Jian's foot was as hard as iron. She tried her best but couldn't move Yun Jian's foot. At this moment, Yun Jian lowered her head. She pulled Fan Axian up with a cold face and threw her to the side. Fan Axian was smashed to the ground. Before she could stand up, she felt herself being pulled up. When Fan Axian reacted, she saw Yun Jian's face. Just as Fan Axian was about to say something, Yun Jian suddenly slapped Fan Axian. Fan Axian didn't even have a chance to speak after being slapped one after another. Yun Jian only stopped when Fan Axian was on the verge of death. She looked at her coldly and said, "You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure."